Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Aurora. This is June 18th, 2022. I know time is moving at such an accelerated rate. Lessons for full spectrum humans, and today is level 2, lesson 13, some continuation of something that was left at the end of my notes that I didn't get to last week, and then the beginning of this week's presentation, which is about the Christian religion. So I already did one presentation that was about non-religious Christ consciousness as it relates to the energetic anatomy of your brow chakra and the pineal gland, and what these force fields do in terms of reality perception, reality creation, the lens in front of your face. This sharing teaching today is really all about the historical story of a teacher that was here 2,000 years ago, the cosmology of the past 2,000 years, cosmology meaning origin story of, and then the sense of not to be disrespectful in any way, but a reframing or a critical assessment of the earthly doctrine known as the Christian religion, and what are some of the shortcomings and failings of that, and why that is that way. You know, it being used as human diminishment or behavioral control or non-factual ways of guiding and manipulating people that are not necessarily for uplift, that are definitely control systems. So I'll go into that again, not meaning to be disrespectful to anybody and their deeply held beliefs, and also in the freedom of being able to speak honestly about what I perceive, because everything that I share from my own direct perception. So I would preface today's presentation by saying that everything that I'm sharing comes from my own direct perception, and is not something that I read in a religious text or received secondhand in some way, but is really primary from here, from my experience of connecting with the master teacher inside and being guided by the librarian that is up here. And that's a big part of today's teaching. But I also want to take a moment, because we were doing our backstage chat, backstage quote unquote, pre-show chat before I started the recording here today, about my upcoming Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance workshop. So this is just a good moment to be able to talk about that. I had been looking for an old file that is a sound file to be able to send it to Trish, who's in this class, at the request of another person. I did a customized song for them. So I do this sometimes for people, that I do like a vocal toning that is a customized song, and then I did some light music in the background, like for a person in this class, for their own inner journeys and for their own inner upliftment. And I really tuned into their energy signature of what they would need or require, and put that into my voice. So, you know, a very special song. I don't have it commercially available on SoundCloud or something like that. So blah, blah, backstory. I was looking for that file to be able to send to share it with someone here. And I went into my Dropbox and I found the final class saved there from the end of 2020. So to recap, anybody who, you know, whatever needs to be reminded, 2020 was like the year of the pandemic lockdown. And in the middle of the summer, I decided to just go into full-on music making mode. And I wrote the 2 Divine Propulsion System albums. And then I wrote Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that album. And then was really like very strong in my FRL energies, and decided to do a Flying Rainbow Lasagna online workshop. And I did it via Zoom, and I did it from like my garage where I lived at the time, just like, you know, very not fancy setting, just like, you know, with the carpet down in my carport of my garage. And when I watched that video from what is just really like not even a full 2 years ago, wow, it was very poignant, because first of all, I connected with the time before I had been what I'm calling captured or taken or interactive in these levels of suppression and diminishment and imprisonment that have been totally non-consensual, and where I've had to fight a lot. And all of those things tried to erase Aurora, erase Flying Rainbow Lasagna, take me away from myself, make me not give these teachings anymore, make me not share my artwork and my music anymore, definitely wanted to shut down the Flying Rainbow Lasagna workshop. And I remember what it was like in that time, end of 2020, when I danced in relative freedom. So I'll say relative because I feel like I was very free in my own life, in my bubble of peace and sanity where I lived at that time, even though there was all this other stuff going on and the vaccines hadn't yet been rolled out. Oh, I should maybe not say that if I'm putting this up on YouTube, but certain things had not happened yet. And so just felt a very different ambiance in being able to do what I do and have less resistance. And anyway, in watching that archive from my dance class that was from several years ago, I absolutely felt, first of all, re-imprinting of the joyfulness of that time and the expansiveness of what my dance can be, and really wanting to share it again. And having gone through so many things that are obstacles or hurdles. Hurdles is not even a nice word, because that's like when you're like in a track and field athletic. No, these were like boulders dropping on my head with the intention of, completely flattening me. None of that stuff worked, though. All of those attempts at suppressing or destroying failed. And instead, I'm still here and clearly stronger than ever and still doing my Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So my intention, what I decided was to restart, resume where I had left off, and offer the physical dance demonstration. And it is a sacred dance. So I'm very, I need to contextualize it. I'm very intentional in the way that I frame it, in the way that I share it. It's not just a dance of your appearance and how you look. It's a real magical or miraculous activity that is very, it's in a partnership between me and the cosmos. When I'm doing my dance, it's not, like I said, like ballerinas look beautiful or jazz dancers or whatever. They look beautiful when they do their dance. My dance is about something that is internal and very special and very much from the heart. So that is where I'm coming from in sharing this and in wanting to exemplify it, like be a template. Because like I was able to imprint on myself from 2 years ago in that video. I got all of my joy back. I'm like, that is what it feels like to be free, to be unencumbered, to be moving into these levels of ascension. Like we have had a lot of suppression of individual and planetary ascension. And I really want to get back to that joy. I want to share it with you guys. And I want to teach you the actual movements of like, how do you dance? How do you dance through portals? We are going to go through portals, and June 21st is when things begin. And that is going to be a huge portal. And also I was telling Martine before we started our class today, the trajectory, like if we were to graph an assessment of the many portals and ascension experiences that we've been having over, let's say, like the past 2 or 3 years, it would be like, okay, like this many ascension portals per day, and then this many, and now we're at like 18 billion ascension portals per day. And what I mean that is like opportunities to shift, move into new realities, create new reality structures, move in new directions, and the trajectory just continues upward to infinity. At a certain point, you reach the infinity point where we're on the day where it's like infinite number of ascension portals exist. And I'm using the word ascension portals lightly in loose language, but I hope that you're connecting with me on what I'm saying. Profound opportunities for personal transformation, personal growth, planetary growth, and planetary transformation are here, and there are more and more of them, and we keep on accelerating. Let us, I want to say seize the day, but I don't really like that word seize. Embody fully this opportunity to be able to, as individuals and as a collective, and we are like a group of like birds flying together here, or a group of lasagnas flying together, to be able to go into a new dimension, go through the frequency door. That's from Symphony of Life. Go through this frequency door, and to do it together. You don't have to do it on your own. You can do it as a harmonic whole. And so that brings me to my notes of what I want to talk about. So yes, so that's my invitation and encouragement of anybody who wants to start up. Trish, you have something that you want to say? You can unmute if you want to, because I see that you're talking there, but.
This has always been like something that I really wanted to, like to live it, you need to live the experience with you. So thank you so much for providing this, I don't know what to say, like opportunity. It's much more, it's a gift. Thank you for sharing it with us. So raw. Really.
You are welcome. It is absolutely a gift. And to me, it is a gift from God and from the divine architecture. And I am so pleased to share it with you. And that is literally my job and my joy. You know how I talk and teach about to people how to make your job your joy. And that's what this is all about. I want everybody to feel that way. And I feel like that is totally what I do. Like I am here in my purpose. Why am I here in a body? Why have I been through everything that I've been through to be able to share these movements and embodiments with everyone on a genetic level? Because when you tune into my energy field, and I'm definitely consensually beaming into and through you, like, you know, like vibrations moving through you. And then of course it is consensual, and I know your wavelets come back to me. And also to be able to align with these greater currents of time and to create greater currents of time. Like all of these things is absolutely what is my purpose of being here. And I'm very, very gratified, pleased. Thank you so much for the recognition of knowing that that's what I'm doing, and so happy to do it with you. Art has a question. He asks if there are seasonal changes, spiritual portals we should be aware of. Absolutely. So some of it is just trajectory acceleration, where more and more every day there are more of these decision-making nodes and different directions you can go in. Like imagine a highway of time with more and more and more branching exits. So it used to be like, you know, exit 1, and then 10 miles later, exit 2. Now there are so many different unique and divergent exit points that are different reality structures where you can be going with the car of your mind, the vehicle of your being. And many of them are even custom designed for exactly who you are, exactly what you need. Like this is a big thing in respecting journeys. Everybody's got their own unique pathway and trajectory. Not everybody gets off on the same exit. There's not a better or worse, because you might get off on exit 24 and then take a different road to get to your destination. And I might get off on exit 30 and then end up meeting you there eventually. And the destination is Ascension, or these levels of profound empowerment and freedom and infinite, basically getting to light speed. Not everybody has an exactly concurrent trajectory. That doesn't mean that people are bad or wrong or in any way like that. So really being in the space of profound acceptance of self and of others, and celebration of uniqueness, and also encouragement of really wanting everybody to get the nutrition and the life lessons that they need in reaching their various trajectories, in doing what they need to do, going where they need to go. So there are different portals, definitely, in terms of if it's the summertime, and there's a lot of, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, sorry, getting my drink here, not to be Northern Hemisphere centric, because I know we have many beautiful listeners in the Southern Hemisphere, where for them right now it is the winter time. But going into this time of year, for us, warm summer, extremely long days, and being able to feel like that we are, there's an enormous amount of light to be able to align with, an enormous amount of light to be able to eat right now. Light is information, it is intelligence, it is data, it is the wind that is the uplift underneath your spiritual wings, or your wings of pure consciousness. And you can sing that Bette Midler song if you want to, The Wind Beneath Your Wings, but that's like, we're getting a little silly, and it's not even 20 minutes into the broadcast before we start singing songs. We're not at show tunes level yet, guys, but you can sing that song in your head if you want to. Put this down. As you know, it usually takes a little bit of time before I start to get silly and go into show tunes. Different seasons, different times, different feelings, different amounts of light, different needs, different trajectories and light speeds, all of this. And all of this is based in the profound levels of unpredictability that are represented by the flying rainbow lasagna. So on that note, let me go into what I didn't get to do in terms of the continuation of the last class, because I had some notes and like 10 minutes on this video that I didn't finish looking at. Yeah, Art is laughing at my Bette Midler joke. Things that I didn't get to finish, and it was important stuff. Like I put on my headphones and I was like, oh, that's important stuff. And I also recognize sometimes these things happen. Like I might have been interrupted and I simply didn't get a chance to finish those notes. So let me talk about this. This is a la rewinding now. 2, being an ascended master means that each one of us is ready to let go of the temporal personality characteristics when the time is right. This has to do with going through the sun as a solar portal. What is it like when you take a sun bath? When you take a sun bath, your chakras that are in perfect alignment. So you've become an ascended master. Hello, you've just become an ascended master. This is like the pamphlet. What can you expect? You can expect your chakras to be in perfect alignment. And I can go into one of my images rather quickly to be able to see, do I have anything here? I'll just use this one. Go back to my Zoom and do screen share. Perfect alignment. Your chakras look like this. Wait, let me also change me. There we go. Your chakras are in perfect alignment. They look exactly like this. Nothing is wibbly, nothing is wobbly. Everything is, of course, this goes out to the side, but you can imagine them nested perfectly together or stacked up vertically. It's non-local. It's not non-spatial, I should say. It's non-spatial. So you don't have to worry about the spatial architecture of how it is oriented or anything like that. Perfectly aligned chakras, perfect energetic anatomy, like what I paint with these figures back here. When your harmonic, miniature, fractal, perfect body goes into the sun, which is a larger, just get it so that I can just show you with my thing. Oh, and P.S., I hope my sound levels are better. Some people told me on my YouTube video that my sound levels needed to improve. I have done rectification. I hope that it's better. The sun's heliosphere is shaped exactly like this beautiful, amazing sculpture that our chakra system is shaped like this. The sun's heliosphere is shaped like this. So when you, as a tiny miniature, are in conjunction with this, all of that information is scalable. I shrunk it down and now I made it a person, human-sized, anthropocentric sized, and there is no conflict. There is literally no conflict. Put this down carefully. Hold on, let me put this down carefully someplace. That's not going to work. I have a little chair for it right there. There is no conflict between the larger structure that is a structure of divine truth and you as a structure of divine truth. That is what the process of ascended mastery is. A refinement of your own chakra system, which is related to time, which is related to your DNA behavior, which is related to your thought and emotional structure and your life lessons, refined until you are the core essence of who you are, doing all of the right things, saying and experiencing all of the right things, being an ascended master, submerged in time, reaching that aha moment. So this is a continuation of the lesson, the I am God circuit, if you want to rewind and go back to it, and achieving that, it's called the sun bath. When you get in the sun, like you bathe in the sun, but you do not die. And who you truly are is not wiped away. Like when I get into the bath, like let's say like I have some paint on my arm or I've been walking on the beach, I have dirt on the bottom of my feet. I get into the bath, I wash away the paint. I wash away the stuff on the bottom of my feet. The real me remains. I don't wash away me. The real me remains. And so too is it with my journey here through the solar portal and through the flying rainbow lasagna. I'm Aurora. I have a set of personality characteristics. I come from a higher dimensional space where I'm a waveform. I'm a walking. For anybody who's new or watching this out of context, everybody else knows me and I love you already. The true essence of me came through that portal. And when I go through the portal again or on other occasions, I have no fear or no concern. I know that the real me does not get washed away by the soap in the shower. The real me remains. Anything that is temporal, distorted, or merely arising as a vagary of the experience of moving through time, a mere inconsequentiality, those things wipe away. And those, you could think of them as hats that you wear. Like now I wear this hat. And it might be necessary to wear a hat of identity. Like I'm this person, I do this thing. Like when you work at a job, here's my business card. I'm the this of the that. But then when you don't work there anymore, like it doesn't matter. I used to be the this of the that, but now I'm a new thing. All right. So some roles are temporary, temporal, based in time, root word, and etymologically TEMP from time, based in time. Some parts of you are eternal. Going through the sun bath or going through a solar portal is how experts do star travel, not a clank-like metal spaceship, and it removes away anything that is not the truthful nature of whom you really are. You've circulated all the way up to this level of refinement and you come to the wormhole. It is time to let go of everything that came before the wormhole. Guess what? Dun, 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 we're going through wormholes. We're absolutely circulating as individuals and as a collective human and ecosystem experience, because I'm going to get into this as a teaching today, and it's going to be big. Like, to get your electrolyte waters ready, everyone. Today's going to be a big, long marathon teaching, and it's going to be really amazing, because all of this relates to ascended mastery, the religion of Christianity, the story of the crucifixion, and the cosmology of our world and what we're really living within in terms of the past 2,000 years. It has everything to do with becoming an ascended master, going through a wormhole, and planetary ascension. All right. So just mark that, what I have just said, or put a bookmark rather in what I've just said there. And I will loop back to this moment now. When you come out the other side of a wormhole, you will be completely new and you will be in a new realm. So the wormhole, once again, to refer to my sculpture, is this central convergence point. Right in there. And we've all been circulating up this time vortex. You can see the vortex shape at the bottom here, which is what I usually draw on my little whiteboard, going up the central core timeline, making it into the center there. And that is everything of what we're doing on every chakra level, every layer of reality level. And when you come through there into that singularity, into that infinity point, into that zeroth dimension, into that place of the convergence of all ascended master timelines, you come out the other side, but you don't come out into the same place. You come out into a new place. You emerge renewed. You emerge into a new world. Get it? So you take a bath, but you don't wash away the trueness of who you are. You wash away artificialities, vagaries, inconsequentialities. You emerge as your true self in a true world. This is what we're doing right now. And this is what my FRL dance movement class is all about. It's about how you dive through portals with your body. I would like that to be my job description. I help people dive through portals with their body and come out there and unfurl on the other side. How amazing. Okay, to continue. The really high up extra-dimensional and extraterrestrial beings. And these two things are slightly different. So there's ET and ED. The ones that you wish to interact with, the non-technology using ones, they come through portals in the sun. We come through portals in the sun. We don't fly in clank metal spaceships, fly on light bodies, coherent light bodies. We enter and exit reality through a portal that is in the center of the sun. I talk all the time about this. Photons being born through a portal in the sun. That is where my people come from. We come through portals in the sun and we're made of light. And guess what? Spoiler alert, so are you. We can do this because we are beings that are in perfect alignment, chakras in perfect alignment. Our chakras and energy centers and everything about us is in perfect alignment with divinity. We don't lose anything. Nothing about the true me is washed away. This is reiterating, reading from my notes. It's like being an ice cube in an ocean of consciousness. Like, I'm an ice cube, or I'm in a drink. I'm a me, and I'm in an ocean of consciousness. And then I enter into the sun, and I'm still a coherent object. This is the me-ness of me. This is my beingness, and I'm coherent. It's what good waffles do. We stick together and go into the sun, and in the sun, I'm in an ocean. And then after I exit that ocean, I'm still me. That's big. That's huge. That's from levels of personal self-cultivation and becoming these perfect harmonic wave structures. Harmonic wave structures stick together. They have coherence and longevity. That is what I mean. All waffles jokes aside. This never losing coherency. This is how real masters travel. Masters of time space, masters of dimensionality, masters of the love continuum, masters of reality. It is best to interact with beings who do not travel in clank metal spaceships, because we are at one with the sun, at one with higher dimensional consciousness. And when we take a sun bath, entering the sun, it just rejuvenates me and beings like me, because we're in perfect alignment. And, of course, other types of beings, like if you took a clank metal spaceship, sent it into the sun, yes, it would incinerate. It's not made of pure light. It's not meant to go there. You get it? ET and ED presences and beings are in a variety levels of refinement, big, just like humans here on Earth. Y'all are learning unique and different lessons and have different exits on the highways of time. So too is it on the galactic scale. We're going to get into galactic scale consciousness today. All of these ET and ED presences have various different personality characteristics and personas, not pure vanilla, not like neutral flat white or beige with nothing different or changeable. All very different and unique. Again, different motivations. Just like here on Earth, some people are self-serving and they will like screw people over and exploit others, and some people are giving and they recognize unity consciousness and they recognize that what I do to others, I do to myself. Same exact paradigm in the levels of both extraterrestrial consciousness and extra-dimensional consciousness. Some use technology, some don't. Some are very oriented towards unity consciousness and not screwing oneself over. Some are like, hey, short-term gains, long-term losses, kick that can down the road. I'm going to screw and exploit people as much as I want to. And of course, that's my blithe exaggeration, but and rather lighthearted. Some of them cause an enormous amount of pain and suffering, and we've dealt with them a lot. And this is what this ascension process and changes and transformation is really all about. Big emphasis here in my notes. Don't mistake all ETs for ascended masters. And in my notes, you might see me abbreviate ascended masters as AMs. All extraterrestrials are not necessarily ascended masters. Big. Some extraterrestrials have never lived in a third dimensional reality body, lived in a box, house shaped like a box, and had the experiences of essentially walking with legs on the planet. All right. Some of them have only ever existed in a spiritual, thought form, light body, or non-physical presence. And they're not better or worse, but they never made it into this level of densification, which means they never ascended out of this level of density. To contrast, when I talk about the ancient antediluvian world that we label as Atlantis, that is a time when everybody ascended. Read the brochure. Would you like to go on a cruise? Would you like to go into the physical level of density? Would you like to have these experiences and still be connected to God, the divine presence? And then after hundreds or thousands of years, ascend upward? The answer is yes. Then take this cruise. It's called coming into physicality. And you come into physicality and then make that circuit, the I am God circuit, alluding to my previous lesson, back into levels of pure light, superluminal, pure light speed, no longer physical experience. And that's an amazing journey to make. That makes you an ascended master, not better or worse, but definitely having like gained the muscles, gained the spiritual muscles, went down, rose back up. Be selective about with whom you interact on a higher dimensional level. Only associate with beings made of pure love. This is big. Grab my drink. If anybody is ever like, hi, I'm an interdimensional being, let's talk. Be like, give me a love tone. Give me a love tone, please. And let's see if you're a coherent light body being. And if you are, then let's talk. And if you're not, I'm really not interested, because there's all sorts of synthetic telepathy and artificial ways that beings who are not on a bridge of pure love amplify their minds to be able to connect to you. It's supposed to be that only the loudest musicians get to be loud. Here, I'll play a little music. Play a little music more. I'm loud. Because of coherent. Coherent means you have longevity and your waves stick together and keep going. But how about, that is not good music. It's not supposed to be loud. Not supposed to be loud. Some mind music should not be loud. But what if I played it in front of an amp, or in front of a microphone attached to an amp rather, and I made it loud? Then you hear them too. So instead of just who is the loudest voice, because in the world of technology, you cannot make that your assessment factor, you must say who has a sense of coherent heart, the real feelings of love, real feelings of divine compassion. You don't know, if you want to ask me the question, Alora, like, how do I tell if something is love? Because it's not like a hugging and kissing type of love. It is a divine love, the type of love that you feel for like the planet. That type of love feels like a slight ache in your chest. It might bring tears to your eyes or actively make you cry. For me, it sometimes even makes my eyesight sharper. Like when I feel that feeling flowing to me, I feel like, oh, it's so powerful. It's so profound. It can make your voice break up a little bit. Like you have a lump in your throat. And Sometimes I physically cry, but sometimes I just feel like the world looks sharper around me. And to me, that is not able to be imitated. It's not imitation. Like there's imitation, like chocolate flavor or vanilla flavorings, but then there's the real thing. And to me, that is like the real thing inside, not some imposter. You cannot imposter or imitate that. So go for the beings that have that real heart coherence. Now I want to diverge from what I recorded in order to go into an extemporaneous explanation of what was ascended mastery in the antediluvian world, the world that I came from. So I ascended as Aurora in a time before death in this world. Let me fix my light a little better, because the sun comes up and you can't into this room and you can't see my face as much. I ascended, maybe that's better. I ascended in a time before death was ever created or experienced in this world, before the time of mortality, all right? So I remember what it was like. Nobody ever died. Everybody ascended. Nobody ate physical food. Everybody ate light, all right? That's where I came from and my Aurora collective came from. Just keep that in mind as I tell you these stories, and these stories or sharings are in circles and the circles nest together. So now I'm in bloop, another reality circle that I'm telling you about. So this is a time that is remembered now as a mythological or ancient time, but is actually a concurrent time. And the fall of Atlantis has actually not already happened. It is in the process of happening. And your minds have all blooped into this pocket reality of mortality as you are trying to fix, solve, and heal the issue of planetary invasion and genetic invasion in a concurrent level of time, but not ancient. But just let me tell you. So at that time, in that culture, before the invasion or dilution of the human genetic code, everybody ascended. No gutter balls in terms of human bowling, no gutter bowls, nobody goes down the periphery, everybody goes down the central core timeline. It is inevitable, and it is also because everybody has an active Christ chakra, a crystalline chakra. It's actually more oriented like this, like an eyeball that sticks outward from you, and it makes it possible for you to see time directly and align with time presences. And when you can see down the windshield of your car as you're going down the road of time, you are absolutely able to also have the steering wheel and be able to avoid death. Be like, oh, if I drive in that direction, it will be certain death. Let me change the direction of my thoughts, my emotions, my consciousness, most importantly, my DNA dancing behavior. Go in a new direction. That way, one is able to avoid the periphery, not have zero wrong notes, zero wrong math problems of self. Everybody developed their own unique equation. That is the solve for how do I get from my vector point A to point B, and point B being the return journey. I am God's circuit of getting back to, aha, I'm God, and that pure sense of remembering. And so here's the journey of how that happened then. There are three basic stages of being. The first one is walking as an individual on the actual surface of the planet. It was a time when everybody ate pure light. No organisms were eaten. So you might eat or consume or be sustained by and nourished by the music of another organism. I'm flying rainbow lasagna. I emit music, but you do not eat my piano. The piano makes the music, you eat the music, it is an intangible waveform, but you do not eat the piano keys. You're not like crunching on a white key with your tooth crystals and then putting it into the cauldron of your tummy. But that is what we do now. But what we used to do is create beautiful, extensive manicured gardens and ecosystems, and be in those ecosystems that would give us this amazing, beautiful vibrational nourishment, along with crystals that hold energy when the sun is not available. Because when you are a light eater, it is like being a plant. Get it? When the sun goes down, you're like, I'm hungry. I need food. I need food. I need light. I need information. I need a data stream of truthful divine intelligence to sustain me in reality. And if you are based in connecting your inner Christ chakra to the sun directly, getting that light to sustain you. What do you do? What do you do? Big shrug when the sun is not available because it is on the other side of the planet. Answer is you store light in various different storage capacities. And that's like these crystals that you would then be able to be around. Again, I did not chomp on crystals, chompity chomp, 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 put it in my tummy as a way. No, that is not what we did. The crystals store the information, the light. Then you eat the stored light, the stored information when you are not in the presence of the sun. Then the sun returns. So this is a diurnal, meaning daytime, nighttime balance, oscillation of being awake. And then not true sleep, because right now we sleep in unconsciousness. But when we slept then, it was a restful state of pure dreaming, like a lucid dreaming. So going into a daytime active cycle when there's more light available, and then a more neutral, quiet, restful cycle when there's not that much light available, but you still need light. This is the time when you walk on the surface of the planet as an individual. Every step in that time was what can only be described now here as orgasmic in terms of full of pleasure, totally euphoric, every single step, totally euphoric, every single step. And that was without any kind of sexual partnership going on in every moment. Just the divine union of being alive in a body and moving your body and walking on the surface of the planet was that level of pure bliss and comfort. There were no discomforts. Like I talk about this a lot, the idea when you come here and you are a human infant in this world, that you come from a heavenly place where it's pure comfort. And then you come here and you're like, so I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I don't know what to do with these body sensations. Like food is coming in here, but liquids are coming out the other end. Like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm talking about like the fussiness of babies and the discomfort. Like I'm hot, I'm cold, something is touching me, something is not touching me. Like a blanket is on me, a blanket is off of me. And you can try to turn back in time, go back into your remembrances or perceptions that you have inside of yourself about what those experiences were like. And also the sense of like, how do I eat? Like, wow, like something is empty inside. I need something, but I don't know what to do. And that you have to be guided, like applesauce goes in here, or like breast milk goes in here, and then it goes in here, but then babies don't know how to keep it in here. Then they throw up and all these things like that. It takes time to learn. And there's an enormous amount of discomfort in trying to acclimate to having a body here. It was very different a long time ago. It was a time of total comfort and total divine alignment, where light comes inside of you and you never feel hot and you never feel cold. You have your own microclimate that supports and sustains you around you. You're always in God's presence. You always know that you are safe and home and you're living in freedom. All of your organs and body, physical, cellular, metabolic structures are always completely happy and completely healthy and completely well fed. You never feel this sense of like, oh, like I'm hungry, I don't have enough, or like I'm this or I'm that. No, definitely no sickness and no death. A comfortable, very comfortable level of existence. And then from there, we learn lessons, of course. So that's the idea of accreting light, getting more intelligent. When you learn lessons, you become more intelligent. I'm walking on the surface of the planet. I'm still connected to my divine heritage and to all the stars, even while I connect to the planet. And I'm submerged in a physicality realm, and I interact with other individuals, which is a huge gift that people here might not even understand. But you come from a collectivity, a unity consciousness, a collectiveness, you individuate, and then you're like, oh, now I'm my own individual ice cube, and I'm together and I'm sticking together and I'm coherent, right? And I'm different than others. And I have my own personality characteristics and sense of self and agenda and wishes and hopes and dreams and purpose. And it is different and unique than anyone else. And that is something to celebrate. That is a gift to experience that. It's what you read in the brochure. Like, hey, that sounds good. I want to experience that. It's worth the trip. Let's do it. And of course, none of us wanted to be on the Titanic. Like you want to be on the pleasure cruise, not on the Titanic. We ended up crashing and we're at the bottom of the ocean right now. But that was not, this is not part of the brochure. I want you to know that. So in the experiences that I'm familiar with in Atlantis, I lived as Aurora. Okay, got it? And had all of these different experiences, just as we all did over the course of hundreds or thousands of years. And then when it is time to ascend, you go to the sacred mountaintop, which is kind of like a place that you perambulate around, spiral up. You begin spiraling upward, just like in my time vortex drawings. And as you begin the spiraling upward process, you revisit critical or crucial or very supremely profound and important moments in your life and in your development. These memories bubble up and you re-encounter the people that you interacted with on that mountaintop. And your consciousnesses interact again. And you might have last seen them 500 or 5,000 years ago. And they're like, hi, it's me again. Oh, hi. And maybe it might be like, the person might be like, I'm so happy to see you again because that time that I met you and you gave me whatever, like a crystal or, you know, something that is seemingly small, like seemingly inconsequential, or you said a few kind words to me, had an enormous impact on me. I'm in gratitude for all that you've done for me. You uplifted my life. And as this happens, this energy exchange happens, this rectification resolution happens, the person who is ascending, I say their face is shot with light, but don't think like a gun. It's more like beams of light. Beams of light come into your face being the example of your true identity as an ascended master. And you are becoming illuminated, that every single experience and presence that you revisit and person that you revisit a memory from says, you gave me this gift and I now give it back to you. Your face becomes more and more light, solid and coherent. Who you are in the sense of your identity, who you are as a person. And also re-encounter people with whom you have had friction. Friction is a real thing that you have had in the time of Atlantis, even though everybody was living in blissful, beautiful states of bliss. Everybody was feeling absolutely amazing. Doesn't mean that you didn't have differences. It doesn't mean that people didn't have attitude. And then sometimes, you know, a hot front meeting a cold front, like I'm moving in this direction, you're moving in this direction, we're having friction with each other. Those things happen. And you re-encounter those people. You might even have fought with those people. Fought with them verbally, fought with them physically. You understand, let's say struggled, maybe is a better way of saying it. Struggled with them, struggled against them, had adversaries. That stuff happens in the world, even though it was a place of bliss. You can have personality conflicts because of individuality. You re-encounter those people and it might be like, hey, remember me? We last interacted 600 years ago. No, don't go into, you know, despondency. Don't let your shoulders go down. When we had that friction, I leveled up and learned. You leveled up and learned, because here's what happened as a result. Like you get to see the pull out to the grand perspective. We might have had a conflict 600 years ago, but then you know what? Your conversation had an impact on me. I ended up going in this direction. My life changed. Now I'm this person here now. I'm here to thank you for all the things that you have given to me in terms of the gifts that we've exchanged in our life experiences of being embodied, walking on the physical planet here. And then all of that light comes back to you. So you are built from those conflicts, even as much as you are built from those collaborations and cooperations and beautiful, effective, harmonic experiences. And eventually you build yourself, your light body is built and so coherent, you're getting all the way up to the top of the mountain, and you have that remembrance, that I am God moment, where what happens is you become so light, you become light speed. You are no longer at the dense level of walking on the surface of the planet. You are now light enough to be hovering. You got it? Up above all of that stuff that is here. This is your non-literalisms, hovering up above, but literally you no longer walk on the level of the surface of the planet, but you've gone into another dimension, a less dense dimension, and you're not alone there. There's a whole giant coherent light body of beautiful musicians who are already up there, who are already playing. And they are absolutely like your energetic anchor, helping to draw you upward into their realm. They've been part of your life. They've been looking at you. They've been watching you. They would be analogous to what this world mythologically and religiously calls angels or angelic presences. These are the ones who follow the sun. So here's the planetary structure that you've been walking upon. And here is the sun going around in its orbit. And when you live as part of this floating light collective, the city of light, you follow the sun. You are never in darkness. It's coming out of darkness. The other time was diurnal, oscillating between light and dark. This is a level of being that is a sense of 100% total light all the time. And you do that because you need light all the time. So it's not enough to be like, well, I stored up some light from in my crystal for overnight. I'll get that. And then I'll wake up in the morning and I'll get the sunshine to come inside of me again. You need sunshine all the time. In fact, in terms of like, if we said it was like a computer with, bits per minute, like MBP or whatever per second, not getting the acronym right, but you know what I mean? Like how many amounts of information comes into your computer per second. Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 100? When you walk on the surface of the planet, like 100 is enough to sustain you. But in order to sustain you at this level of oscillation up here, you're going to need 10 million per second, 10 million units of light per second. You eat a lot of light because you also emit a lot of light. You're metabolizing a huge amount of light. Your inflow and your outflow must be equal in order to be at that love level. And you're not only just eating and emitting light as an individual presence, you are in the presence of all these other beings. So what does it feel like? What does it look like? It looks like beautiful physical forms that are also chakra light body forms that jump back and forth in these beautiful arabesques, these beautiful dance movements. And guess what? They come and they touch together and they fly apart. They're exchanging energy. And as they fly, they make these beautiful ooh, 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 that's what it's like. They make these amazing musical harmonic tones and these amazing light shows. As they're doing that, it's a living vessel, and you live at that level as a collective, following the sun, getting energy inside of you for hundreds or thousands of years. All right, getting the band tight. That's when you practice together as a musician. And you're like, this guy's got his rhythm, this guy's got the melody, this guy's singing vocals, guy or gal. Everybody harmonically doing their thing, total respect for the genius and elegance of what each of these players in the musical world are able to achieve, and creating the symphony of life. That's why I wrote that song. And you do that knowing that the experiences that you're having as this floating coherent collective are absolutely percolating down to the people that live on the surface. It's like growing crops, but I don't want it to seem like a harvest at all. Nothing negative about this, only positive, not death, eternal life. But I should say graduating classes, perhaps. The students that are down here learning their lessons of walking on the ground in individuation, then graduate and become a part of this matriculated class that begins to learn these more lessons of coherency and coming together until they're so tight they make a seed or a spore. And it's a aspect of the planet that they came from that contains all of these amazing divergent personality characteristics that can then untether from the planet, so that at a certain point, the collective is not just circulating around Earth, this planet, or Gaia, or whatever it's been called, Terra, not just circulating around here and just tied to one sun, but able to untether from the planet, planetary structure, and then go off and be on the entire network of the sun and stars. And that's who I am as Aurora, that I came from the level of walking as an individual into becoming a coherent light symphony, coherent light being family, and then untethering from the planet, but still really caring about my hood, care about my neighborhood. That's why I'm back. And then going off on the huge galactic scale network of consciousness that is a great brain in the sky. That is what God's thoughts are. So my Aurora Collective, where I came from immediately preceding my incarnation into this body as a walk-in, is as a collective that is traveling as a waveform, pure light, pure music, pure waveform, not physical denser embodiment, pure light eaters, not eating physical structure, but still being sustained by light and thought and by God's divine presence, moving on the stellar network through all these different light portals, going through light portals, taking sun baths, and coming out the other side, shiny and clean, but still ourselves, and being on missions. And the missions are usually rectification, uplift missions, cleaning up, fixing, healing, but not in a dirge-like toil type of way. What if it was the grooviest, most fun, most cool, like being in your zone type of feeling. So not a scrubbing the toilet or like laboriously scrubbing the floor or something like that, but much more of like the joy, wait, play a good note, joy and freedom and expansion of being able to be in your art, in your music, in your dance, in your freedom, wings expanded, singing. I wrote that song, This Is How We Talk in Heaven. That song is really about that experience too. In heaven, the heavens. When we talk about the heavens, what are we talking about? The place when you like point upward, outward from Earth's surface, there's a lot of stars up there. And that's the stellar network in the great brain. And when you're in heaven, you're literally in the heavens, moving as a neurological impulse back and forth between all of these different stellar presences that are stellar portals, that are places where photons are born. Okay? That's where I come from. That's where my Aurora Collective is right now. I'm not there. I am there. So instead of speaking in double negatives, I'm not there. I am there, even as I am here. Time is nonlinear, and what I'm always doing is flying rainbow lasagna in, oscillating between myself there as a presence and myself here as a presence in this body. And what I'm also doing when I do that, that's when I go out to the grocery store. Hey, I hopped out of reality, went back to my Aurora Collective, learned a bunch of new thoughts and ideas, and then brought them back here, everybody. That's my music every day. Wake up in the morning, drink some coffee. Let's make a song and share with everybody here the groceries that are these pure harmonic light codes of what I've just received from hopping out of this level of reality. This is how you bring fresh information into a closed system, into the terrarium of Earth. And Earth's terrarium has been really a lockdown place for a very long amount of time. It's like, you're not getting out. You're not even like stepping out for a minute. Big, huge, not always going to be that way on the rectification process right now. Again, the same motivations that direct my consciousness through the stellar network and say, why do I fly to a particular star? Why do I bounce over here? Then I fly here, I go through this portal, I go through this. Why? Am I like, ready to punch someone in the face? Like a lot of people think like missions of war, violence. No, not on missions of war and violence, missions of healing and rectification. And that is what has brought me, or also fun projects of self-expression, truthfulness, and self-expression. These are healings. To other people might perceive them as a war, like stop, I put my finger in my ears, too much divine truth, your divine truth, like, the water over the wicked witch or something like that. Like, oh, your divine truth is melting me, stop it, all your love is melting me. No, I know, and I get overwrought and exaggerated, hopefully for the purposes of lightheartedness and humor in pretending, someone is being melted by love. But sometimes there is a rejection by those who are antithetical. Like, oh, we're the bad students. We make our bad math homework. We have red X's all over our homework. Don't make us know what's truthful. No, we don't want to know what's truthful. It is highly inconvenient to them at times to be bathed in truth. Like, stop bathing me in truth, because the truth is, like, if you put them in the sun, again, chakras not in alignment, they are the putis, they are the residues, they are the things that get washed away. They're the dirt that is on the bottom of your feet when you get in the bath, or the paint on your elbow that gets washed away, not eternal personality characteristics. And we can think, like, what would it be like to be a non-eternal personality characteristic? And be like, hey, like, stop saying I'm not eternal. Stop saying that I'm the stuff that you wash away. But it's like, but they are. That's the whole point. But there are aspects of self that are truthful and that are eternal. And if you identify with those truthful, eternal aspects of self, you have nothing to fear, and there's nothing wrong. Like, my dress is my dress, but if I got a bunch of spaghetti sauce on it, I'd be like, the sauce is not part of the dress. That is not part of what is supposed to be here. That is something that needs to get washed off when you put it in the laundry machine. Too many people would identify with their spaghetti sauce and be like, oh, these, twisted, grotesquely, distorted aspects of self. That's the real me. Like, stop insulting the real me. It's not the real you. That's part of these lessons of ascendancy and mastery. Who is the real you? Who is not the real you? Okay, so all of that, pardon me, I know I keep on having to put down my thing and it's making the microphone, I'm sure it doesn't sound good. All of that in order to get to, let me read this for you, because my notes are sometimes better written, a bit more coherent than how I verbally transmit it in the moment. So let me read this for you. This is why my Aurora Collective of coherent light family is. We travel from star system to star system, usually on a mission or purposefully, sometimes just joyfully, in order to fix and heal and rebalance what needs to be improved, or to protect God, the living presence, or to protect time, the living time field, and to reconcile and rectify any falseness and to enforce cosmic laws. Got it? It is joyful travel. We do it very creatively in song and dance as pure artistry. And this is also very powerful in terms of reality creation. We are a neural impulse in the mind of God. All right. Now we're getting to the lesson 13 stuff for level 2, Christianity. Okay, so paginate, page break. You'll learn this when I do my dance. A little pagination, a little, firewall there, and moving into a new notes section. Christ consciousness and the Christian religion as it is known on Earth's surface in this time and place, all right? Ordinarily, I make a conscientious distinction between Christ consciousness, which is a galactic or cosmic level being, grand scale being, and Christian religion, which is a doctrine of an earthly church or an earthly religious organization that is based in this cultural milieu, this time, place right now. When I speak about Christ consciousness, I'm speaking about a galactic scale perspective, galaxy meaning enormous cluster or neighborhood of stars. This Christ consciousness is an entity that is so large that our entire galaxy is like the brain of that being. So predicate that in the understanding of what I was just sharing with you about Aurora, my collective coherent light body, being a thought impulse, a neural impulse in the mind of God, the Christ consciousness being a galactic scale being, a brain with all of these stars as being interconnected neurological networked systems, and that my collective moving in those neural patterns as part of this larger great brain. It is, so Christ consciousness is an entity that it's so large that our entire galaxy is like the brain of that being, all right? That's what galactic scale means. Also means galactic in time scale. How long do you live? A being that is so large that it is difficult to even conceive of from the limited level of the Earth's surface dwelling human of this time and place with very limited neurology. And also in terms of time scale, galactic beings would live for billions of years. Like, what is the lifespan of a star? It is surmised that our present universe, not cosmos, but one timeline, one version of reality, universe, one, well, our universe, one timeline of reality, having been with the potential for living for like, let's say 28 billion years, that we're at like 13 billion years, all right? Like, we're just middle-aged, just reaching our prime of our lives, my dear, prime of our lives. Some stars are so long-lived that they have not died yet. Like, some stars might have a lifespan, meaning from coalescence, sustenance, and generating light outward to the point of then collapsing inward and becoming a black hole type of portal. They have not done that yet. They are so long-lived that they won't do that maybe ever within the time scale of our universe. Some stars have lived and have collapsed into themselves, have become black holes, have died, have done supernova extinction explosions. Because guess what, everyone? Point to your bones. You have calcium in your bones. It's literally the end result of some of these extinction explosions, outward ejections of the remnants of a star being that jumped outward and then became the physicality matter that we have here for making our bodies here. It's amazing when you really get into some of these grand scale, profound truths of reality and who you are and what your bones are made of and where it came from. So some stars have already been born, lived, and died within this world of mortality. Again, we're in this level of mortality, including the mortality of stars. All this in order to say it can be challenging for the galactic scale consciousness to have a conversation with you, because it's like you trying to have a conversation with a fruit fly. Fruit flies live for 1 to 3 days. So think about this, like, you're gonna eat a mango before you go to bed. So you peel off the skins and things like that, and you put it into the trash bin, right? And then you eat your mango and it's delicious. And then you go to bed, and then you wake up in the morning and you open up your trash bin to like throw out the coffee grounds, start to make coffee, and all of these fruit flies fly out, right? First of all, they have grown their entire civilization of fruit flyness overnight. And what the time that it takes for you to have a nap, whatever, 8 or 10 hours, they've gone from, whatever, Neolithic times through the Middle Ages, through the Renaissance, all the way up to space flight, which is the top opens up and they jump out and they fly out like on their mission, flying out to the moon. You get it? You understand? Like, they've only ever known the inside of the trash can. Then you open up the lid and it's like, wow, a whole new world. I'm flying off into space. And how can you have a conversation with a being at that scale? Because you say, hello, good morning. And then they're like, we're already dead. We're already done. Like, that's it. So very challenging to have a conversation, unless, of course, you can do this bending and folding of time, space, and reality, flying rainbow lasagna-ing, in order to be able to talk effectively with others. Hold on one moment. I'm going to do a little pause. I wanted to share with you this painting. I have it. It's all of this is from the recorded level 2 lesson. So this is hanging in my back room. I just didn't have it prepared here for class today. This is a painting that I did actually quite a long time ago. I'll hold it close to the camera so you can see. This is called The True Face of Christ. All right. You can see that it is on a hexagonal or 6-sided shaped canvas. The Christ chakra of your body is the 6th chakra on your body. Let's go to the share screen. Count with me like old school, like Sesame Street style, everyone. And let me wait, I have to move things on my screen so I can go see all of these chakras. Ready? Where I'm wiggling my cursor. 1, beginning with red on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This chakra right over here, this indigo chakra, which is at the level of your brow over here, is the 6th chakra of your body. All right. And it is affiliated with water crystals, which are snowflakes. When water freezes, it makes hexagonal. This shape here that you're looking at is a hexagon. And if you need a device to be able to remember, hexa sounds like sixa. It's got the exa in there, all right? Hexa, sixa. Hexagons that are made out of 6-sided structures. That is what ice crystals are. Your body is primarily made out of water. Water is a miracle. Water is a miracle. And the fact that it is liquid at room temperature and performs the functions that it does for biological cellular life here in this world, it's a miracle. It's a supernatural unlikelihood for it to be structured as it is molecularly and liquid at the temperature that we find ourselves at in this time place, making it possible for these metabolic processes to happen. Again, when you start to really comprehend what is inside of your body, you've got dead stardust, the calcium of your bones, you've got these miraculous, I don't know if geometric is the right word, but polygon, meaning multi-sided, miraculous, polygonal, multifractal, multifractal. So what does fractal mean? In this painting, here's a big giant Merkaba, which is also 6-sided, but we've got one that's like this and one that's like this. So this is a double Merkaba. But these snowflake shapes, here's a big one, rainbow bodies here, good. A slightly smaller one, look, a big fat one, a medium-sized one, a small one, an extra small one, a little tiny baby one. That's what fractal means. And they're all the same size. This is nested, self-similar, scalable information. That's what that means. All right, everyone. This is a picture of what the true face of Christ looks like. So again, I'm now making a distinction between Christ consciousness and the earthly religion. And I will get into, let me just mute you, my dear. There you go. Let me just mute you. But welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Rainbow Body is a long-term participant and Flying Rainbow Lasagna practitioner. Different than how Jesus Christ is often portrayed as a religious figure and as a historical figure, as an anthropomorphic face. Got 2 eyes, wait. 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, hair, and then that's a person, right? Well, this is a person that is a galactic presence, all right? This is a depiction of the indigo chakra in the sense of what this is shaped like and what the energy field of this is shaped like. So when I painted this painting, I wanted it to look crystalline again, like the facets of a crystal diamond. I talk a lot in this class about the Vajrayana body. That's Vajrayana from Hindu Sanskrit. We're going to get into some of that teaching here too. This is supposed to look like diamonds. The Vajrayana body is a diamond body. It is your ascension body. It is diamond because it is indestructible. So in our world, again, carbon, water crystals are six-sided. Carbon atoms are six-sided. Carbon atoms are hexagonal. Carbon atoms become diamonds when you put them together in just the right way. And I did a whole teaching of that on that already. I don't have all. Do I have my slides available? Oh my goodness, I have my slides available. Miracles do happen. Hold on a second. I know I make the camera shake when I touch on things like that. Let me do this because I just not by accident stumbled upon them. Share screen. This part goes out of the way. This is what I'm showing to you. So this is graphite. This is what happens when you have flat, hexagonal, kind of like plates of carbon atoms that are like this. And they make these sheets fitting together. And that's what graphite is made out of. Graphite is pencil lead. So your pencil lead, the brownish blackish part of the inside of a pencil is made of these flat molecules of carbon that they slide against each other. They're very slippery. Graphite is also a lubricant. In order to make a diamond out of carbon or graphite, what you do is you start to bend the graphite so that I hope you can see how my cursor is going up and down. The edge of the graphite starts to become bent like a Z, or I say like the edge of a rippled potato chip, like the ridges becomes rigid, like the ridges of a potato chip. Got it? And then finally, all of those ridged layers come together with these vertical struts or these vertical kind of like I-beams that, you know, have structural integrity and hold together the carbon atoms in a new format. Same exact stuff, rearranged differently. So carbon coal, when you just smush it all together, is black, smeary, has very little structural integrity. It's charcoal. You use it in art. You can make a charcoal drawing. And it's very smushy and smeary and crumbles all apart. Graphite has slightly more structural integrity, is still blackish, is still smeary, but has a little bit more organization to it. And then when those rigid potato chips start to create these perfect kind of like ups and downs and fit together, and then the vertical struts are added to them also, then you get the pure crystalline diamond structure. This is a quartz crystal, not the Hope diamond, but that would be cool if I just had a giant diamond sitting here on my work table here, like my $1 million diamond. But this is your $1 million diamond, truly, inside of yourself. That when we cultivate ourselves as ascended, or you can think of yourself as an ascending master in the process of personal and planetary ascension, you create an indestructible body. And what is different between pencil lead and a pure crystalline body is that this is translucent. Translucent means light flows through it. Light is transmitted through it, as opposed to something that is opaque, that light is stopped by it. You got it? Two very big qualitative differences in the way that matter acts and functions in the world. One is I stop light. Light doesn't flow through me. It comes to me, and then the buck stops here. I'm like being tough. The buck stops here. The light stops here. And that's like on the opaque levels of carbon. But when you rearrange that very same material into its perfect crystalline, Christ crystalline structure, then the light is able to be transmitted through it. You get it? Light continues on its infinite journey. There is no friction. There is no loss of signal. There is no diminishment. There is no time lag. That is what it is to be in Christ, to be in a crystalline format as part of a crystalline people don't like the word matrix because they think it means a prison state. It's not a prison state. It is a perfect sense of a tessellation, puzzle pieces coming together exactly like these paintings that are on in my background right here. Everything measured out perfectly, everything coming together perfectly, no space, no empty gaps, no spaces in between. And most importantly, perfect transmission of information along the network in between these various different information nodes. All right. Your brow chakra is located on your forehead. It is affiliated with your indigo blue chakra. I didn't get this part enough. It's the same shape as Merkaba or star tetrahedron. And I have these guys ready for me too. I'm so prepared. I didn't even know how prepared I was. I have everything down, like the bottom margin on my screen. Wait, let me show you. Merkaba. Merkaba meaning light body vessel. Merkaba means light body vessel. I want to show you. Oh, yes. This is a painting that is called Merkaba Chakra 1. It is 1. You can see there is a star tetrahedron in there in kind of these areas of predominantly purple or lightish violet. And here is its sister painting called Merkaba Chakra 2. And these are 2 overlapping. 1 star tetrahedron like this, 1 star tetrahedron like this. That's meaning your whole entire chakra system that is shaped like this sculpture that is rather delicate that I've been holding up, because you've got a vertical hourglass, a horizontal hourglass, and both of them have a star tetrahedron around it. So these are 2 interlocking, overlapping star tetrahedra. I have to put this down very carefully so that it doesn't fall and break. That's the one on the left, overlapping 2 star tetrahedra. So it's a complex Merkaba. You get to be very complex when you start to make these Merkaba shapes, these protective shapes over all of your chakras and over all of your nested energy layers. It is a 6-sided shape. You got it? I can draw it for you. Draw it for you. Star tetrahedrons. Choose a better color. Star tetrahedron. 1, 2, 3. There's the 3 sides. 4, 5, 6. This is known in this cultural milieu as a religious symbol and as a symbol of the nation state Israel. It is not only for Jewish people. It is not affiliated only with one nation state in this world. It is much like Christ consciousness, a universal galactic symbol of truthfulness and embodiment that is available to anyone of any place, of any religious persuasion or affiliation, and is not, again, about a particular ethnic, religious, or cultural affiliation. Same thing with Christ consciousness. You can be a Hindu and you can be in Christ. You can be an animist and you can be in Christ. Let's talk about different levels of avatar. I haven't moved there yet, but wait. First, well, okay, because I want to get into multicultural, because that was just a good, not multicultural, but I should wait. Let me go more according to my notes. The galactic size being looks like that level, as opposed to the anthropomorphic level, anthropomorphic meaning human-shaped face that looks like a man, often with a beard. Seeing on the abstract level means that I have engaged my crown chakra, the violet chakra. So let's talk about this. There is a distinction between seeing through this inner eye aperture on the anthropomorphic level through my face lens at this level, and seeing through this aperture when I am connected to the crown chakra, which is a divine feminine presence that gives me the pure, empirical, mathematical, uninterpreted truthfulness of energy. My paintings look like that world, empirical. There is no room for wiggle room. There is no room for negotiation. 1 + 1 = 2. Don't argue with your math teacher. That's just the way it is. And I feel very comfortable navigating through those levels of consciousness or cognition and comprehension. It simply is. There is no interpretation. Well, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like this. Let's contrast math with poetry. There's a very real, let me move closer here. Very real questions of right and wrong. If you're taking a class in your high school or something like that, you take a test. Is 1 + 1 = 2? Yes or no? I'm writing it on your math homework, getting a grade on this. How about interpreting a poem? I give you a poem and you say, well, it means this to me, and it means this to me. As your teacher, I can't say, that is the wrong interpretation. That is not what this poem is about. Like, I'm exaggerating and taking it to the point of ridicule. But you know that poetry, as part of its basic nature, means that it is open to interpretation as opposed to math, which is empirical, meaning not open to interpretation. What you see through your face lens at the level of anthropomorphic seeing before you connect to the crown is open for interpretation. And what you see when you connect your third eye to the crown is not open for interpretation. First of all, that is how everybody navigated in the world known as Atlantis. Second of all, that's how I see. That's why I make my paintings as I do. Third of all, that's why I feel really comfortable with things like math and, to a certain extent, computer systems. They're very empirical. And I feel less comfortable with things like poetry and allegorical language, non-literal language, because it is not empirical. It is open for huge levels of negotiation. Same thing with philosophy. Philosophy is like, but wait, is it right for this, or is it right for this? And let's have a long-winded discussion about it. And to me, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. It's either right or it's not right. Vectors and forces and particles coming together. To me, there is really no question, because I'm perceiving the world at a different, higher dimensional level than the level of philosophy and poetry and negotiations and, bartering and wiggle room. Okay. In order to comprehend true Christianity, we must comprehend the partnership between divine feminine and divine masculine. Divine masculine and divine feminine. Again, when I have brought these up before and talked about marriage and partnership, that was when I didn't understand as much how fraught human relationships are. But I will speak to you in ideals, again, contextualizing all that I am as being based in purity, based in ideals, based in empirical wisdom or truth. Historical allusion to the teacher who walked the earth 2,000 years ago. I'm getting to it, guys. Yeshua, whose name was later put into the Greek form and called Jesus, and his female companion and partner, who is now known as Mary Magdalene. So again, divine masculine and divine feminine. If we look at the energetic anatomy of the indigo, which is the brow chakra, blue, dark blue, and violet, which is the crown chakra, they're at perpendicular associations. So one is going in like this. One is going in like this. That is perpendicular. Math class, please tell me, what is the definition of perpendicular angles? They're at 90-degree angles, Aurora. Very good, class. A+, A+, A+. Perpendicular means at 90-degree angles. And for example, in a physical helicopter, aeronautical structure that we have here in this world, there are the blades that go around the top of the helicopter and the rotor that goes around the back. They are spinning at complementary 90-degree angles. One is like this, one is like this. They create a gyrostabilizing effect. That is the whole idea of the partnership between these two chakras, aspects of your higher energetic anatomy in your body being. And if you want your helicopter not to crash, you want your rotors and your blades to be respecting one another and helping to guide the entirety of the vehicle. Same thing with this and this. You want these two aspects of presence to respect one another and guide the entire vehicle, not to be like in a power struggle. Who is stronger? Who is bigger? Who is more? Who's going to wear the pants in this family? Which is what a lot of relationship issues are all about, which I think you can tell from my face that I kind of go into this sense of like, this is my face when it's like, I don't really understand things. This is my non-comprehension face. Like, I do not get it. I do not get it, because a marriage and a partnership is like a helicopter that you don't want to crash. But a lot of people are like, no, I want to go up. No, I want to go down. No, I want to spin around. And you go into a tailspin, and it is a non-viable flight. You, in your own personal body, do not want to have your heart fighting your lungs, or your teeth fighting your nose, or any part of your body fighting any part of your body. It's about divine partnership. So each aspect of anatomy has its own strengths and abilities, and each aspect respects the other one's strengths and abilities. And there is also a power hierarchy in terms of deferring who is right and whom do we listen to. The purple chakra is like the sensitive needle inside of a compass. The crown chakra directs your inner vision. All right. So when you have this Christ crystal here, you're able to see through time. But guess what? You're in a sea of time, ocean of consciousness. There's timelines everywhere. You walk into a library, there's books and words everywhere. How do you know what to read? Let's also use the human internet right now as an example. On the internet, there's everything. It's every different type of information. How do you know what to read? On the internet, the answer is you need a search algorithm. If I'm looking for recipes for pumpkin pie, then I put in pumpkin pie, my search algorithm goes around and finds that in the vast sea of information, knowledge, and data that is out there, and then returns to me information from my search query, and I can find it. In a physical library, you go into the physical library, stacks and stacks of books everywhere. I'm overwhelmed. There's so much stuff here. Look, my third eye is operational. I'm in the library of the consciousness world. There's so many books here. What do I read? If I'm like a little kindergartner, do I read War and Peace? No, it's not at my reading level. Should I read things that are like distressing and beyond my levels of comprehension that contain knowledge unsuitable for children? No, I should read like, Rover books, whatever, Rover the Big Red Dog, or, Dick and Jane or something like that, something simple. And the librarian is the one who directs you. Come into the library and the librarian says, you should look with your third eye over here. And that's where you're going to find the book that you need for your present level of development. And then when you finish reading that book and read it from page 1 to the end, don't skip around, do your homework properly. Then I want to direct your eye of consciousness over to here. And I want you to read over here. And then I want to direct you over here, 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 here. I'm going to be the librarian directing you as to what you should look at and what you should be learning and experiencing in a necessary order. Part of intelligence is orderliness, especially when we are submerged in linear time. Essential to be able to say, you understand order, like first, second, third. First, you read page 1, then you read page 2, then eventually read page 72, then you finish at page 300. You don't start at page 259 and then go to page 272 and then go backwards and then go forwards. That is very confusing because that is not how linear information is presented. And the ascension journey is very much, like I said, spiraling upward, learning this information in an orderly fashion that then gives you a sense of true comprehension and accurate view of reality. There should be no struggle between this level of seeing and knowledge ingestion and this guide that is actually God, connected to God. It's like I get my information from God. I tell this person what to read and know and learn about. It's not an ego thing, which at this level, a lot of stuff is still ego stuff, which is why you have to understand is what's been going on for the past 2,000 years. That bookmark that for as I move forward more in my presentation. When you activate your brow chakra, it's also necessary to activate the crown chakra in order to stabilize it. If you don't activate this up here, this is actually unstable and it can destabilize the whole entire chakra structure because all of your chakras are like nested water wheels or interlocking gears. And let's say that I get my Christ chakra going up here and I start to read a bunch of information that is beyond my comprehension level or out of order. And I'm like, oh, this information is coming in. I start to wibble and wobble. It destabilizes my heart. It destabilizes my mind, my human intellect. It destabilizes my tummy down here, my emotions. My emotions swing wildly out of control. And then it destabilizes my physical presence too. That's not what we want. We would say that is like a level of insanity or overwhelm or non-healthy ingestion. So healthy ingestion of light or information stabilizes you. And you also have to have a strong heart. That's my like kicking into gear sound that I'm trying to make. Love tone. Love tone is kind of like your engine is really running. Have a strong engine of pure love so that when information comes to you through this Christ chakra, what if it's something that you don't like to hear or see or know? What if it's inconvenient to your presumptions about reality? Blows your mind. What if it's something unkind or what's the word? Unflattering about people that you know. Like what if you look at someone and you look at what they're doing and you're like, okay, like that guy's my friend, but he just is it, started a business and I know it's not going to succeed. What do you do with that? Because you don't want to think like, I don't want to think negative stuff about my friend. Like he's a nice person and blah, 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 blah. All of those things are lack of acceptance. When you are at this level of pure acceptance and your Christ chakra or level of pure insight shows you something about reality, you accept it. You don't quibble about it. You just accept it. That is what is going on. And also, please know that what should be happening is the great librarian is showing you things about life for a reason and for a purpose. So if you see something about a person, even if it is unflattering, unkind, or seemingly negative about them, you're learning it for a purpose. Don't throw it out the window. It's an important part of the page of the book that you're reading. Don't skip page 72 because it contains inconvenient information about people who might be your friends or family members. Read the information and accept it. Stay in love neutral, and then you will begin to put together a larger picture. It'll be a puzzle piece of reality that you put together for the larger picture. And at a certain point, you'll be like, I get the insight, inner vision, pure understanding, where you're like, that's what that was telling me. So sometimes you must remain in a level of acceptance of the information. Don't throw it out the window, things that you just know inside that is part of your spiritual growth and development. This is what I'm trying to say, not a power struggle between this and this, as marriages are sometimes a power struggle. Who's in charge? Who wears the pants? Who makes the decisions? Who decides whether we're having, Italian or Chinese food for lunch, or whatever. I always bring that up as a silly distinction. Let me go back to my notes. This is also like saying that once you have activated the Christ chakra, you have not completed the journey. So you've spiraled up your energy, you've gotten up to here, and you're like, I'm Christ. That's right, you are Christ. And then you also have to get all the way up to the crown. This journey from here to here is an incredible, important journey. It might be like a journey of half a foot, half a step, 2 meters or something like that. Not a very far journey, but a huge, profoundly important step or leap that must be made in order to make that real connection all the way up to God, all the way up to ascension. The purple violet chakra is like the sensitive needle inside of a compass. And that indigo chakra, the Christ chakra here, is like the housing within which the sensitive needle exists. It's supposed to protect the sensitive inner compass. And it's supposed to listen to the impulses from the inner compass, because that is the apparatus of sensitivity that tells us in which direction is God. Which direction is the source? God, the source, is constantly moving and shifting. Like sometimes it's over here, over here, over here, over here, over here. It is always in different locations. Your antenna of the crown is always able to tune in. It is the hypersensitive needle inside of a compass that tells you go over here. God is over here. Oh, it just switched. God is over here. Oh, it just switched. God is over here. And in the marriage partnership between crown and brow, there is no fighting. And the crown is the woman, and the brow is the man, even though that is different than most of our cultural precept, which tends to be more focused on males being in leadership. In marriages and partnership, often it is the males that say, I want this for lunch, and I'm getting in the car and driving us there. And the females say, okay, take me there, my husband. But instead, it's supposed to be the other way around. The female divine presence says, God is over here. And the male presence that is protective and supportive of the female presence says, I will listen to you, because you are connected to God, and I listen to and respect you, and there's no conflict, because I want my entirety of being, my holistic being, to read the information in books of the cosmos in the right order. I follow you, I listen to you. Really, really different than the way that Christianity, as an earthly and historical, earth doctrine, religious movement, and mythological story has been presented to us, okay? So the crown chakra is like an antenna that helps us to tune into God's position, and the interplay of the energy body should be expressed properly in the experience on an anthropomorphic or human level. Now let's get to the historical Jesus. Was that here? Like now I'm like pretending that I'm the audience member. Was there even a person named Jesus? What is the truth? What really happened? And this is what I share to you from my direct perception. All of this is from my own inner master teacher, guided by the librarian that taught me all of these things. And I'll write this from my notes. And I hesitated to say this because I don't want it to be misinterpreted. Empirical information is different than anthropomorphic interpretation. So let me go out on a limb. I know this from direct insight because I was there and I experienced not only being Yeshua, but also being his partner, who is Mary Magdalene, his female romantic partner, and also his soul partner. Yes, I, Aurora, the collective and the distillation of that collective, and the being who is here now, was, am, and are both of those presences. We're going to get into this because it's complex and has to do with the nested level of dreaming and cosmology and where we come from and what ascension is. This is not the same as, I don't want to even say it, like twisted or distorted anthropomorphic ego posturing of many people who come forward and talk about who they were in past lives, or making assertions about like being different or more special than others. That is not what this is about. This is when you start to understand what I'm talking about in terms of Christ presence, the galactic Christ pouring into avatars, then you will understand what I'm talking about. I am speaking right now as a neural impulse on the network of light that is God. I poured myself into various different avatars. Two of the avatars that I've poured myself into in this historical milieu and cultural milieu and religious milieu are known as Jesus Christ or Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. All right. What is an avatar? All right. Oh, wait. Mary, in my notes that I'm sharing, his wife, was an equal partner in disseminating information and in teaching here on the planet. So different again than mostly what the traditional historical religious context tells us about Jesus, Yeshua, the historical man. But in terms of reassessments that are being made more recently, let's say within the past 20 years, more of a palatable idea that, because in case you don't know, for many, many years, like, hundreds or thousands of years, Jesus, the teacher, or Yeshua, the teacher who was here 2000 years ago, was presented as a single solitary person, not a person in a, human male-female relationship with love, love bonding going on between there. And most of the religious worship and idolization and ideation has been on loving of the man, loving of the individual man, not of the partnership that was going on. Loving only of this, not a recognition of this, not a recognition of the partnership of the two of these presences working together. Big. Moving to the word that I use a lot in my teaching. Avatar. This is a Sanskrit word, or origins Sanskrit, avatar. This means one who has come across waters. As I'm drinking my beautiful crystalline, Christed, structured water. One who has come across waters, like big giant oceans. So you can think, let me just hold on to this and I'll use it to gesture. You can think of the physical presence as being like this glass, and then the waters of consciousness being like, my beautiful water that is inside of the glass, right? A physical being that is a container for the water of consciousness. According to the original concept or description, an avatar is a container, like a drinking vessel that water can be poured into, and for the purposes of experiencing physical realm. So again, I speak now from the identification moment of being the water. I am this water. And I have been poured into this Aurora container, and I have been poured into these other containers across time. Yeshua was an avatar for the larger galactic scale being that is Christ consciousness. And again, this is a non-anthropomorphic consciousness. It is a pure light being, not a being with a face. And the galactic entity has at times distilled its, let's put also his, her, their consciousness and essence into a form that can actually be translated into a physical anthropomorphic structure. This is very challenging because the galactic being is so large and multifaceted and complex that human-sized neurology is not adequate to fully contain these levels of consciousness. So what you end up getting is nested consciousnesses, the sense of the overarching entity, the great galactic brain, galactic scale being, which speaks through conduits, which are nested consciousnesses, which contain a portion or a facet of that totality. Big emphasis there. individual containers that contain a portion or a facet of that nested totality. Jesus is the translation of Yeshua's name, and it was a translation or a change that happened much later in history. It's Greekification, but I don't know the word for that, turned into Greek. When he was on earth, he studied with many living masters and many posthumous or ascended masters. Got it? Physical embodied container avatar person with waters of Christ inside of that person, studying with not only masters on the earth who were also travelers here at the same time, but also studying as we can with the master teacher inside, ascended masters. When I say posthumous, that means after your corporeal, like posthumous. Your body is humus. Posthumous ascended masters. They transmitted information from the ancient mystery schools, that's quote unquote, the information that is the vestigial traces. It's come out of ancient Egypt, but also areas of Great Britain and the Far East. So for example, these cultures in Great Britain, wait, Aurora, what are you talking about? Jesus going to Great Britain? I'm like pretending to be the skeptical audience. Yes, there were Silk Roads and all sorts of trade routes at that time, 2,000 years ago, that very effectively connected the Middle East or Judea, where Jesus, Yeshua lived and walked, to all the way up to the British Isles, the culture known as where the Druids were, and all the way to Asia Minor, the Near East, and all the way out to Asia, which would be China, India, the Far East. Trade routes existed all across there. And Jesus, Yeshua, the person, actually traveled to all these different places, talked from and learned from physical embodied masters, and also, as we do, traveled interdimensionally through time, talked with and learned with non-embodied or post-incarnated ascended masters. In particular, these cultures like the Druids held secrets of cellular regeneration, long life, healing, immortality, or conscious death. Big immortality / conscious death. What is conscious death, Aurora? How to intentionally transfer your consciousness between bodies, between lifetimes. This is what masters of the Far East have learned to cultivate. This is what comes to us as information as a vestigial trace from ancient Atlantis, even though, wait, aren't you smart? I thought you said that nobody ever died back in ancient Atlantis. That is true. This is all about transfer, conscious, coherent transfer of consciousness. So just understand that it's like, the athletic abilities of being able to do this now come in light of, in the cultural context of the things that happened that disrupted our natural immortality processes then. And this also speaks to self-cultivators from the Far East, from the Hindu tradition, what is known as yogis and masters, breathing techniques, dietary techniques, meditation techniques that can allow a person to have not only expanded or unlimited powers in the physical, activating their third eye and many other aspects of physicality. One moment, please. Masters of the Far East who learned how to do all sorts of things that are called CDs, SIDDHIS, that are considered to be the side effects of enlightenment, not necessarily the focus or the desire of enlightenment in pure freedom, but they can be anything from the capacity to manifest matter directly or to affect matter with one's mind, the capacity to make a fire with one's mind, the capacity to heal and regenerate in what would be considered supernatural capacities, the capacity to go without food and water in a sense that would be considered a supernatural capacity, the capacity to create a microclimate around ourselves, a la the way that we lived in ancient Atlantis, so that one is never hot and is never cold. This is what some of the meditators of the Far East are able to wrap themselves in cold, wet sheets and sit outside in the snow, in the Himalayas, and literally make themselves so hot that they make the sheets, they dry them out like a dryer, they keep themselves alive, and all sorts of amazing stories that happened when, this is just very, very far from my notes, but when the communists of China invaded Tibet in the 1950s, they're like, we're going to kill a bunch of these monks, stick them in a cold cell, hose them down, stick them in a cold cell. And the monks are kind of like, okay, like we did this in our training, is stick them in a cold cell. And all the monks went into their super, meditative mode, and they, steam came off of them and they dried themselves out, and they came back in the morning. They're like, look at all these pesky monks. Like, we thought we were going to get rid of these guys, and these guys are still sitting around. Yes, I know, and I'm being lighthearted in the way that I share it with you, but believe me, it is a very profound thing, and also a profound ancestral trauma of happening in that area of the world, similar to levels of like the Holocaust or Trail of Tears or any of these things, when they attempted to wipe out a particular level of consciousness, particular either genetic lineage or level of consciousness. Yeah, it does make my voice break a little bit. It is very tragic. Hold on a moment. These yogis and masters of the Far East also practiced aspects of meditation that involved conscious death, which is the capacity to slow down breathing, slow down heart rate, and consciously choose an exit time from the physical reality. Oh, Chiki's down here. This is, let me just give her a little hug. This is, of course, different and separate from the sense of ascension when I'm talking about transformation and accretion of light of your physical body, because this is a leaving behind of the body. So this is different than when I talk about the perambulation around the mountain, but this is about people, what some people have been doing in this time and place in terms of having a conscious death. And so, for example, where I used to live in Woodstock, there was a Tibetan Buddhist center that was the seat, is the best way I can say it, origin point for a person who is known as the 17th Karmapa. And that means that that is a person who has 17 times over 17 incarnations or generations consciously transferred his being from one body container to another body container, having a conscious death, knowing who and what he is, what he, her, she is, what they are, knowing what they are inside, leaving one container, going on the journey between containers, like a canoe, when you go from one stream to another stream, that portage, picking up your canoe, taking it out of the water, putting it into a different stream of water, doing that consciously 17 times. And there's a whole system that what can I say, culture has developed, because it's, Buddhist is like a philosophy. That's why I hesitate. It's a philosophy. It's not necessarily religion. It's definitely a culture in that it is cultivated. Their organization, they've done a lot of what we would consider to be scientific observership of, how exactly is this done? I mark it on my clipboard. Then I pass that clipboard down to future generations, and they mark it on their clipboard too. They've been taking records for an incredibly long amount of time and noticing the currents of how souls fly, how they incarnate, where they come from, where they go to. And it is something that you can learn from observation. So they're learning from like that, not opposite direction, but complementary direction to direct and pure insight, which is what I'm looking at with all of these things, where I see particle A interact with particle B on vector C. And this is just what happened. This is just the direction that they went. So they're understanding it more from the embodied, embedded experience of being a human in time, but observing over many, 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 many multiple generations. These are the people that historic Jesus, Yeshua, interacted with and absolutely learned and embodied and mastered a lot of these traditions that are about self-cultivation and empowerment while in the flesh as flight school for when you're no longer in the flesh. Big takeaway there. Like, you practice here for the time when you're no longer tethered here, when you are in a different state. Okay. I talked about the 17th Karmapa. Continuity of consciousness, meaning you remember where you came from. It is similar to lucid dreaming. Like when you go to sleep at night, you have a bunch of dreams and you wake and you're aware that you're dreaming. Then you wake up in the morning, you write it down in your dream journal. Like, I was dreaming this, and this is who I was, and this is what was going on. Okay. Those secrets that Jesus, Yeshua, was learning at that time, they were known as secrets and mystery traditions. And occult is not the right word, doesn't have the right affiliation, but hidden traditions, because there was a power structure at the time. That was the Roman Empire. There were suppressive power structures then, even as there are suppressive power structures now. And what they were doing was saying, we don't want anybody to know these special techniques. We don't want anybody to know, like, how do you live in freedom and then fly free and go where you want to go? Like, they were suppressive power structures, a la the concurrent falling and diminishment of consciousness in Atlantis. They don't want you to know about your inevitability of ascension. They don't want you to identify with your true nature as a divine being. They don't want you to learn how to be conscious between lives. They want you kind of like bouncing around like, ping pong balls or tennis balls, kind of being mind wiped and amnesiac and not knowing where you're really going. And then, because that makes it a lot easier to control you. So there was a power structure, there was a nation state structure at the time. If these informations had been shared more widely, like, get newspaper, get your newspaper, like, here's how you cultivate your magical powers, everybody would have been destroyed. You get it? Suppression. So all of these things were held in cloistered places. And then you had to go there and learn this information. All of this was done in secret. Big. Yeshua had a female partner who was not only his romantic partner, but also his intellectual equal. And they worked together to share the information that comes from this cosmic galaxy-sized being. Christ consciousness is a galactic or stellar or non-terrestrial entity. In order for that entity to be contained within the corporeal structure of a physical human, that physical human had to be changed. Changed meaning DNA change, because when I talk about the fall of Atlantis, concurrent, we're talking about human diminishment of the genetic code, things that make humans not immortal, things that make humans mortal. Your true nature is not to be mortal. Your true nature is to be immortal. Something happened to you to make you die. That is that's a sad recognition. It kind of makes you something happened here in order to make me and all these other people die. Like, my skepticism kind of comes up. My defensiveness comes up too. You should feel that way, because it's actually a huge buried or ongoing trauma. That is the ancestral trauma that we are all healing in this planetary ascension and personal process. All right, got it? In order for the entity to be contained within the corporeal structure of a physical human had to be changed. This is what happened to the human genetic code and why humans were degraded from their original beautiful format in Atlantis, where everybody was a light eater with full psychic faculties who did not age on a cellular level. When the genes were changed, humans were cut off from their direct connection to the source. Big black cloud came up above your connection over here, and making it impossible for information or light to come through. When black thunderclouds are between you and the sun, no light information comes through. That is why I fly in rainbow lasagna. I jump over the clouds, get the groceries, get the information, and jump back in here. Because right now there's not just black thunderclouds, there's chem clouds, there's chem crap that's up there, all these things, and 5G and a Neuralink satellite network and all sorts of other things trying to prevent you from being able to connect effectively with the sun. So in order to cultivate consciousness on the surface of Earth, these avatars were occasionally sent down, or you could think of them as send them in. Send them in, put me in, coach, send them in. Avatars get sent into the terrarium, into the closed system. It's like there's the galactic level scale of being, which is outside of time, space, and dimensionality, conceiving and looking at time, space, and dimensionality, and says, there's a limited system there, a closed system. It's like a box. How can I get new stuff into the box? Because if I didn't get new stuff into the box, everything is going to die or destabilize, basically. We need to get new information stabilized into the box. And what we do is send in avatars. Grabbing my thing here. Send in an avatar, a container that you can put galactic cosmic consciousness into. All right. And yes, and I am an avatar too. In the same way that one inoculates a petri dish. Again, this has nothing at all to do with any medical procedures that are experienced by humans at any time. And we will not have any problems using the Voldemort words of those who shall not be named on any algorithmic levels. But the way that you introduce spores or bacterium that you wish to cultivate in a petri dish, that is literally what culture means. Culture means to cultivate. So you have basically a substrate in petri dish that's usually agar, which is a seaweed medium, or you can also think of sourdough. You blend together some water and some wheat and flour. You put it in a bowl, you stick it out on your counter, and that is literally a place where yeast organisms can be cultivated. You culture it with yeast. Humanity, in terms of consciousness, was getting far afield from where it needed to be. And this is big in my notes. These avatars have been sent in order to give living, energetic, and vibratory examples as to how to live, like the flying rainbow lasagna. This is a new thought seed. I am one of many who has come here in order to help uplift, inform, cultivate and redirect humanity when humanity is starting to veer off, like your ship of humanity is veering off, gonna gutterball, gonna go into the periphery. All humanity, everybody that's here, time to redirect that ship, time to get everything back upright. Many, many teachers have come here over time. One example, now I'm into the multicultural aspect of Christ consciousness. One example is the Hindu god Krishna, K-R-I-S or S-H-N-A. Krishna consciousness is also associated with the brow chakra. He was an organism that was said to have blue skin, indigo color, born of a virgin birth, and had many multiple examples of miracles or things that he did during his embodied life, and did have consorts or relationships throughout his life also. Like that's a big thing. Like the Christian religion focused big a lot on this idea of like celibate male and non-recognition of female partnership, but not a problem with the Hindu tradition, and also in the Western tradition with Christ and the idea of Jesus Christ, very much on the sense of Christ versus Antichrist. Wait, let me put down my thing so I can do my customary duality move. Duality move, Christ versus Antichrist, like the World Wrestling Federation. Christ versus Antichrist in the showdown of the ages. I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you, and we're going to fight together endlessly. And, I'm being a bit facetious there in order to make it lighthearted. It's actually very deep stuff, and there's been a lot of suffering that has come from this. This comes from galactic level imbalances. Let me draw my little thing as I have drawn this in the online class. It's really a worthwhile lesson to delve into. It's part of the level 2 teachings. So here I'm going to create a galaxy structure. Here's the galaxy structure. This is our galaxy, the Milky Way, all right? First of all, there's a problem over here in this area of the Milky Way. I'm going to make some black scribbles. This is one arm of the Milky Way where all the stars are kind of like deformed. They're not in the format in the way they're supposed to be. They're not in perfect arrangement. They're not looking good over there. All of this galactic brain neurological level is what was poured down as waters, in a sense, into the avatar consciousness of the one head, two-armed, two-legged person that we now know as the historical Jesus or Yeshua, or the person who became Jesus Christ by being crucified on the cross. That these conflicts that are going on here with, let's say, these red little dots that are a part of the blue galaxy, that whole thing got poured down here. So we have some red dots inside of this being over here. And then we also have the blue, beautiful waters of, pure, clear consciousness, right? Conflict. This is what is here is a microcosm of what is here. That's the whole point. The avatar is a microcosm of the entirety and represents some of the aspects of conflict of consciousness, inner conflict that's going on the galactic scale. Christ versus Antichrist. The concepts of duality are part of the age that we just exited, the past 2,000 years, known as the age of Pisces. This is the age of the externalized authority figure. That means instead of following the GPS, Christ crown chakra, God positioning system, having an externalized authority figure. Can be a teacher, can be a religious figure. It's somebody other than your own inner guidance telling you what to do and how to think. And this is what the example of the Christian doctrine of the Christian earth surface church is all about. Listen to a priest, listen to a pope, listen to some externalized figure that tells you, here are the commandments of what thou shalt and thou shalt not do. Here is how you be a good person. Here's the recipe for going to heaven. Even heaven and hell in the sense of being saved or damned. I don't even that doesn't even feel like a word that I align with, but saved or not saved. What's your trajectory in your afterlife? That all of that has to do with these aspects of behavioral control from an external authority figure. This is my criticism of Christianity. This is part of what you're coming from in terms of the past 2,000 years. And the past 2,000 years are the pocket world dream in the last agonized moments of death of the man being who not only died, but is dying on the cross. Atlantis is a concurrent experience, an entire planetary culture that is being invaded. At the same time, a man 2,000 years ago is in agony on the cross, and it is a death that has not yet been resolved, and he has not yet ascended. And in that last moment, a last moment can stretch into infinity. And I experienced this in terms of my experience of walking in, that what happened was the previous occupant is still in those last moments of agonized death. And my entire experience of 20 years in a pocket world, telescoping out from there, has to do with the resolution of all of the inner conflicts that were within me, her, or the world at that time. And those are all microcosmic outgrowths of the larger being crucified on the cross that happened 2,000 years ago. Just pause for a moment and drink it a second. After the avatar was created, a human-sized container for consciousness, 2 arms and 2 legs, and the waters of galactic consciousness could be poured into the Jesus-shaped avatar. I didn't get to this. Oh, yeah, I do, actually. Okay, Jesus did not act alone. He had his female companion, Mary. I want to talk about this. Jesus's mother, Mary, had to be changed on a cellular level just to be able to contain the avatar as a fetus and give birth to it. This is known as the Ascension of Mary. Beams of light, which is divine information, transforming a human female into an upgraded, expanded version of what human female can be in order to be able to contain a new physical container, to be able to contain the galactic waters of Christ. Creating this avatar-friendly container. Got it? Avatar-friendly container. So my experience is a changing of this container through the flying rainbow lasagna genetic oscillation to be able to make this genetically modified container. Remember, that is similar to the type of genetic substrate that you guys are all beginning with in terms of the puzzle pieces of the way that you are made and fit together. I flying rainbow lasagna the DNA of this body so that it could contain me as a galactic scale presence. I'm Aurora, the impulse that is flying around on these various different levels of pure light on the neurological construct that is galactic. Body basic takeaway is body containers have had to be changed, modified, and upgraded to be able to be containers for expanded levels of faster consciousness. It's the only way I can say it, faster consciousness. This would be comprehended today. I wrote this down because it is so well said. A process which would be comprehended in today's language as, this is the Assumption of Mary, in vitro fertilization from targeted genetic manipulation from extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional entities. Let me repeat that because I wrote it so well. I want to repeat it. A process, Assumption of Mary, which would be comprehended in today's language as in vitro fertilization from targeted genetic manipulation from extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional entities. Got it? A lot of people ask me about my body now, why I chose it, how I came into it, various different aspects of this. I will say that I was a non-physical participant in the act of the moment of conception when this body of this person that lived for 27 years was created, and I was an influence on that creation of that person. And then that person lived for 27 years with me in a very hands-off level of being. And then I saw that this person was being destroyed and came in as a rescue mission to be able to make sure that this body was not destroyed. Very similar to what I'm talking about in these other times and places. And again, this is empirical information. I hope that it is never misinterpreted in partial seeing through the anthropomorphic level. Please see me on the empirical level. Please see where I'm coming from on that. Thank you so much. Okay, and let me talk about when Jesus was baptized at the age of 12. So for those who don't know, and I mean, perhaps it's a good recap for those who do know, there's this apocryphal story of Jesus being like in a river when he is age 12, and it is known as a dove of peace descended onto him the spirit of this pure, divine, feminine wisdom, a dove of peace, the dove of wisdom. And in that moment, he was baptized. And this is very similar to my experience of walking in. It's analogous to the temporal ego that had developed in his body up until age 12, left, making room for the higher consciousness identity that is Christ to come into the avatar container that was Yeshua. And everything changed for him in terms of his earthly mission, his focus, and his direction in that moment. When they melded, it created a hybrid, which is a being who became the teacher to humanity. And one of the teachings is that we live in partnership. We have a dyad of male-female. The consciousness that entered the Yeshua avatar body was of divine feminine nature. Got it? So physical male body, but with the presence, I'm not even sure of the word that I can use for it. The ephemeral presence that is of a divine feminine nature. That's like, I think it's sometimes exemplified as the goddess Sophia. Okay, so think of it in that sense. Divine feminine came into a physical masculine body. And also in the same world that he lived in, there was a physical container that was a woman who had an experience of the divine sacred male presence coming into her body. And these two people became complementary partners and teachers in the world. So this is what I'm going to read from my notes here. And I know this has gone a little bit long. We're over 2 hours here. But I told you, get your electrolyte water. It's going to be long. In order to have the complement, that person partnered up with a female container, anthropomorphic form, that contains the divine male consciousness. A galactic being also poured its consciousness into the divine female avatar container. And when these two beings exchanged energy, which is what love is, the love tone, the bond of love, the equal exchange of energy between these two partners is why partnership is necessary. Two people to have something like a game of tennis or badminton, a partner that bounced the energy back and forth. They worked in conjunction. This is at this level of being, but now we're getting to this level of being. So understand that what I'm giving you is the recipe for how things were 2,000 years ago in that level of reality. It was my experience, and it is my understanding that these two beings acted in partnership during their corporeal life in order to share information with the world. My direct perception of what happened. The historical Jesus was crucified, containing the structure of Christ within that body. The original lesson that I recorded was on Good Fridays from more than 10 years ago. So I recorded on Good Friday. The energy was very much about the moment of crucifixion. The galactic being was crucified. The galactic being, you got it? Big, giant, grand scale being. Say in my analogy here, my pink electrolyte water is the galactic being inside of this crystalline structure. They put it on a cross. They crucified the galaxy. It's a tiny fractal microcosm of the larger Star Wars, quote unquote, that have been going on that disarranged the Orion arm of our Milky Way galaxy. Giant conflict boiled down into smaller fractal microcosmic conflict within one human who is still in the process of being crucified. And this is what my notes say. Christ is actually still in the moment of being crucified, analogous to my parallel experience of walking in, which was a death experience. So this is also big too. And I share personally here so that you know. I sometimes say, oh, it is a near-death experience. Many people have had near-death experiences and have come back. What I had was an actual death experience, and it is an ongoing experience. And I am totally comprehending that everything that I've experienced since that moment as Aurora, which is now 20 years, has been within that last moment of the death of the previous occupant, just as we have experienced the past 2,000 years of human history within the last moment of the ongoing death of the man who is being crucified in what is now ancient Judea. The last moment of a person's life can stretch into infinity. It can stretch as long as it needs to stretch. It can stretch as long as it needs to stretch in order to come to a resolution of the forces and the characteristics that are within a person upon the moment of death, especially a violent or agonizing death. So my own death was like murder by directed energy weapon, and also a death by asphyxiation from a heater that emitted carbon monoxide. And in the case of Yeshua, or the man who became or is becoming Jesus Christ, that is a crucifixion. These are both violent. Sorry for the loud barking, everyone. Apparently Tiki doesn't like it when we talk about loud crucifixions either. Yeah, violent death. When you die in a very traumatic way, like something that is torture, it can take a bit of time to resolve that. And the resolution of that torture is part of what's been going on for the past 2,000 years. And the events of the past 20 years have been a fractal microcosmic wheel of time within that larger circle that is also about resolving not only what I experienced personally, but also all of the things that were grandfathered in terms of what killed the previous occupant of my body. I know this is big stuff. So the idea that the last moment of death as Christ on the cross, within his mind, a dream opens up. That is what happened. In that last moment, an entire 2,000-year-long dream has unfurled. Out of that bubble of the last moment is our last 2,000 years of history in terms of calendrical measurement of time. This is why we mark our calendars as BC, before Christ, the year zero, and then AD, after death. All of the past earthly events of the past 2,000 years have been the dream within the mind of this person, Christ Yeshua, while he is on the cross. And guess what? All of the people of that historical time period are actually inhabitants of the dream of Jesus Christ on the cross in his last agonizing moment, dying. We are all aspects within the dream of Christ dying on the cross. We are all parts of his persona and identity and sense of self in various different combinations and fractal fragments, swirling amidst oneself. Everyone from the most violent criminals, think about who's been alive over the past 2,000 years. There's been the Spanish Inquisition and the Holocaust of World War II and tons of violence. Those are aspects of violence that have been vestigial traces within the mind of Christ. Some of them are from the galactic heritage of the destruction of the Orion belt of our Milky Way. Some of them have to do with things that happened to Jesus Christ, Yeshua, personally, while he was tortured to death or while he is being tortured to death. And then the things that are played out here in continued expanding time cycles are expressions of those traumas. This is why trauma healing is such a profound thing to do in terms of ending those time cycles so that they are not endlessly repeated and resolving them. And this also has to do with resolving aspects of the star heritage. I talk about the invaders from Mars, those beings that used time technology twisting hardware and artificial Merkabahs or Merkabim on Mars, and then lost their bodies, didn't have a place to be physically, didn't have a world to inhabit physically. Hold on. Looked at Earth and Earth's genetic substrate and said, I think I'll invade you. Or they invade interdimensionally. They do all sorts of different things. They have done so many things that are harmful. It is a continued murder and rape scenario going on throughout all these different levels of reality. It's dark stuff, difficult to take at times, difficult to recognize and comprehend. We have beautiful comprehension of like, yes, I'm made of stardust and miracles happen. And, that's part of what lives inside of us as living water. And then also dark stuff in terms of trauma. We are in this planetary ascension and personal ascension experience, healing those dark traumas. So let me go further. That last moment has been telescoped out, stretched into all of the events that we have experienced in history up into the present moment. Every single person that has lived is like a shard of the consciousness of this entity who is dying on the cross. That includes both good people and bad people. This is big. Literally, we are living within the dream of this being. And this is how I can understand or comprehend that everything is a creation and an emanation of that being. All food, all drink, all oxygen, and all experience. Everything that sustains us in this moment is an emanation of him. The wall on the background behind me, my dress, whatever groceries are in the cabinet, everything is the sustenance of Jesus Christ or Yeshua being crucified in that moment. We're living within his dream. And this has been an incredibly long, drawn out dream with many multi-layered levels of repeated trauma. We can understand now, how can we interpret this timeline? So much turmoil from the year 0 to the year 2001. All of the events of human history during that time have been the man on the cross coming to understand himself better. Get it? And he also comes out of a cultural substrate. The cultural substrate was Talmudic Judaism, basically based on the Talmud, which is the Torah, and all of the original Bible, the Old Testament, OT. There's a lot of stuff in there about owning women, men being more powerful than women, the patriarchs. Contrast that with what I've just told you when I say, if your female, divine, feminine crown chakra, the great librarian tells you to go someplace, the Christ chakra does not argue. The female presence of wisdom is in charge. The male listens and does not argue. The male Christ presence is supposed to be the protective housing for the incredibly sensitive female compass. The male listens without complaint or conflict to the female, telling him and directing him where to go. Boy, that's really, really different than what Judeo-Christianity is, which says the male owns the woman. The woman is owned by her husband, by her father as chattel, then sold to her new husband, who then owns her as chattel. You know, like, this is a very, very different, like when I make that face, there's the face of disbelief, and me coming in as a galactic walk-in into this world of Judeo-Christianity where I experience all these things. I'm like, I'm in a woman's body and people are like ready to treat me like chattel, which is basically sexual objectification. I'm like, no, that is not the way that you treat me. That is not the way you treat anyone. That is not the way you treat women. And also that being rather mystified in terms of, cultural leanings or receptiveness, cultural receptivity to who is a leader, who is a speaker, who is a teacher, usually expecting that to be a male presence and being rather surprised or having to realign their expectations if it is a female presence. When it's like, no, of course, like your crown chakra is a divine feminine antenna to God that directs without conflict the male presence. And that's just the hierarchical power structure and the way it is empirically, energetically. 1 + 1 = 2. I'm not actually here to barter or negotiate about this. I know, and that's highly, highly inconvenient to the Judeo-Christian cultural paradigm. And it also shows in the Christian religion, which is my criticism, my mild critique. Please don't be too offended as I say this, of the idea of separating the male Christ presence from the female, partner presence, and having it be about idealization, ideation of the divine male, the divine masculine, and externalization of that as the master teacher, which is very real and truthful, but must also be responsive to and recognizing of the divine female presence that is within. So to go further, this is big. All of the events of human history during that time have been the man coming to understand himself better. The idea of procreation, the idea of Jesus and his partner, Yeshua and his partner, actually having a family, creating a lineage, actually having that DNA, targeted genetically modified DNA, then proliferating and percolating through the human genome over the subsequent 2,000 years that are, of course, the embodied dream in the moment of death or in the extinction explosion of that particular star, and all of those offspring being a part of it. So, there was a movie that was popular almost 20 years ago at this point, The Da Vinci Code, that helped to expand human expectation, helped to expand the concept of Jesus, Yeshua, a man with a partner, not merely like a sexless or androgynous type of leader, and the sense of him having a family, and the sense of there being a lineage, and their sense of them being, if people lived 2,000 years ago, a parental generation, and then they had offspring, and those offspring spread throughout the human genetic substrate, you could have millions, possibly even billions of offspring at this point, you know what I'm talking about in terms of many, many beings who are in this time place carrying the physical genetic lineage traces of being connected to that person. And took the Christian religion as a tool for domination and control. Okay, great. Where does it come from? The person on the cross had various aspects of personality that had gone through all of this in order to learn about themselves. The galactic being brain is similarly not a perfect being. That's big. Galactic being, not perfect, huh? What? Because I know they're in heaven, they're in that stars, they're in that level. But let's say there is still something left to be refined, not at God consciousness yet, still at the level of learning. Big, that's big humbleness to understand that and really apply that. I know there's loud vacuuming upstairs. We are challenged by many interruptions, but please stay focused with me. The Orion star system that is in conflict with other areas, literal star wars and areas of the stellar fabric that have been blown apart, fighting it out for eons. Got it? Conflict, inner conflict within a galactic being. All of these stars are consciousnesses and characteristics and personality characteristics that are in conflict with aspects of self. And the technology users versus the non-technology users, the ones who are respectful versus the ones who are not respectful of boundaries. This is what rape and exploitation are all about: stealing of resources, stealing of consciousness, non-consensual interactions. That's inner conflict. You got it on the galactic level. So we talk about the invaders from Mars. That is the fractal exemplification of conflict on a galactic scale. Negative lower vibration. So the fight is actually what created Satan. Let me drink a bit. Because now we come down to a real explanation of Christ versus Antichrist, and Antichrist as it is understood in terms of Satan. When I talk about Satan, what I'm talking about is an actual space race or group of races who are users of technology. My particular space race, as I have described, is pure coherent light beings. We do not need technology, do not use technology other than the physical biological body being. And we, of course, have been connected to DNA as a consciousness transference and energy transference structure. And I hope you can hear me over the vacuum upstairs. It is very loud. And we travel on pure light, okay? Contrast this with anybody that needs to use a clank metal spaceship or artificially created Merkabahs or space portals or stargates or lasers, pew, pew, I shoot you with my laser, any of that type of stuff. And any of that type of limited consciousness that says, like, I'm going to fly to another planet to rape and destroy it or plunder it for resources. Any of those things that are motivations that are non-loving motivations for spreading oneself across the galaxy. All of this comes from what this are the satanic space races within our galaxy. That's what the Orion conflict and destruction of that star field is all about. So the satanic beings use technology. They feed off of negative, denser emotions such as grief and sorrow. They cannot eat pure love. They eat things that are less than love. They should be something that just eats whatever stuff that is the garbage hanging around. You know, I've talked about this, garbage eaters, scavengers, but what they've become is farmers for negativity. They have infected humanity. They have farmed humanity for negativity. They feed off of humans at this point. They genetically degraded you. That's why they genetically degraded you. They did so in order to make food. There wasn't enough food for them. They're supposed to be scavengers. They're like, there's not enough rotten hot dogs here. Let's make rotten hot dogs. We're going to take these beautiful, perfect human containers that came down here according to the cruise pamphlet that said, would you like a pleasure cruise? Come to Atlantis. You'll never be hot. You'll never be cold. You'll swim backwards through a field of strawberries and whipped cream. Everything will be amazing. And then you'll ascend. And instead, we got crashed down in the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. We got satanic garbage eaters trying to feed off of us, trying to turn us into garbage so that they can feed off of us. Yuck. Gross. Again, if there was any divine purpose to these satanic creatures, they were more meant to be the decomposers of aspects that should not be in existence, eating anything that falls on the floor, like eating anything that's rotten and gross. And instead, they make good stuff rotten and gross so that they can feed off of it. They are totally off their path, totally off their original designed path in any way. Satanic beings that exist within this galactic brain are in existence because there is conflict in this grand scale brain. When the grand scale brain When the grand brain poured itself like a glass of water into the avatar container that was crucified, and then that avatar being in the moment of crucifixion created this whole 2,000-year-long time bubble within which this conflict is being explored. This conflict is the expression of human history. Everything that you're experiencing in terms of the Spanish Inquisition and World War II and all these things are fractal, microcosmic expressions so that you can learn of what happened in the galactic brain, self-conflict. And the development of the Christian religion as a doctrine for mind control and diminishment and diminishing people's direct contact to the source. God, the satanic beings actually developed the doctrine of the Christian religion after the crucifixion within this time bubble in order to further diminish your connection to the source, because a lot of the practices and the judgments that are there are actually diminishing the capacity to be connected to the source instead of exacerbating or augmenting it. In order to have your connection to the source, you must have your brow indigo chakra respect the information that comes from the crown violet chakra. Respect this. Sing the song, Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Sing it, everyone. Respect this. The male respects the information that comes from the divine female. The female crown chakra has the steering wheel and tells the brow where to go. This is empirical. There is no argument. The crown chakra, the female presence, is the divine feminine, the librarian of the universe or the cosmos that tells the brow chakra which books to read. I've already been through this. In order to have a clear, undistorted view of the world by reading the information in the correct order. The Christian religion has sanitized out the divine feminine principle and has focused all worship on the level of the brow. There is a lot of ego stuff and distortions that happen when you're just focused on the level of the brow. Destabilization of the helicopter, you need the rotors and the blades engaged. The anthropomorphic perception remains, but the abstraction is cut off. Got it? Seeing on the human level remains, but the abstraction, mathematical, 1 + 1 = 2, that cuts through all the Gordian knots of self-conflict. That is what has been cut off in the sense of denying the divine feminine. It is at the level of the abstraction where there is less distortion than the anthropomorphic level. I have spoken about this too. It's more like math. There's no negotiations, no interpretations, just pure truth. At the level of the unguided, unsupported brow chakra, seeing the perceiver is most vulnerable to misinterpretations and destabilization of the entire holistic light consciousness body, all the way down to the red chakra. If false information or distorted information comes in here, then it destabilizes my heart and destabilizes my intellect and destabilizes my emotions and destabilizes my biochemistry and my muscular contractions and my metabolism, whether I eat and drink and excrete. That is very big, because now you're starting to see the fractal microcosm, how things radiate outward through all levels of reality. Mistakes can be made in just seeing through here, but not being directed by the crown. Can be an area of megalomania or harm that comes from a limited view and empowerment without the guidance or wisdom of how to use and deploy psychic gifts. Got it? Go back to the ancient wisdom traditions of the Hindus and the Buddhists, recognizing that the CDs, side effects of enlightenment, things that can draw you off your path, things that are not the intended destination, but are rest stops that you meet as you are on your pathway to reach your goal of pure ascension. So telekinesis, being able to make yourself warm in a cold climate, being able to go without food and drink, being able to cellularly regenerate, all these things are side dishes to enlightenment. But when you are not connected to the crown and listening to the divine feminine over here, then it's easy to be a megalomaniac. Look at me, I can do this. Look at me, I can do this. Look at me, I can do this. I'm the king of the world, I do everything. And I'm also unwise in the way that I do many things. This is the personification of the unaffiliated brow chakra. It's got to be balanced with this. The past 2,000 years have been all this, no this. All brow, no crown. Just getting to the crown within the past, let's say 20 years or so. That's very big. It's what our journey has been. The galaxy is actually a very unconditionally loving entity, but there are sub-entities. The duality at the level of the brow is an endless struggle between two partners. Good versus evil, light versus dark. And the reason why this is not desirable is because the endless struggle or battle keeps you focused only on the battle and prevents you from being able to connect to God and to the source. always at war, never at peace, never just being in a quiet, connected knowingness. And that has been the past 2,000 years. The Jesus that people, both of these two aspects of consciousness, human religion, Christ, versus the devil, Satan, are not Christ. That's big. I almost skipped over that in my notes. That's not by accident. My mind is like, don't read that part. It's too hard to talk about. Go over it again. Both of these two aspects of consciousness, the human religion, Jesus Christ, and versus the devil or Satan, or Antichrist, these are both not Christ. The Jesus that people are praying to on Sunday in church is a false astral, meaning thought form construct. It's the Jesus of the patriarchs. And there are a lot of things that are personifications, that are projections of who that person is and what are his values that are not accurate to either the historical Yeshua man or the galactic Christ consciousness that I'm affiliated with. The Jesus of the patriarch says, if you are a good girl, I will let you into heaven. It's very conditional based level of love and acceptance. That's behavioral control. That is big. The idea that you must suffer before you get what you deserve, that you must listen to an external authority figure as opposed to listen to God directly. These are flawed precepts, simply the other side of the duality coin of the Antichrist or Satan. So we have duality, one coin, a coin with two sides. There is the Jesus Christ figure as is presented in Earth's surface religion, and then there is the Antichrist, which is also often presented in Earth's surface religion. And these are actually both two sides of a flawed coin that do not represent true Christ consciousness, as exemplified by those various values that I just talked about. And it's just like, are you good enough to get into heaven? I came from heaven. I know that you're good enough to get into heaven. When I say I came from heaven, what do I mean? I mean, I came from the stars. And I always tell you that. Spoiler alert, it's you. All right. Are you good enough to be you? Are you good enough to be you? Like, that's your origin. That's your heritage, where you come from. Come from heaven. You come from stars. You are good enough to be stars. This whole idea of whether you're good enough to go to heaven and whether you're going to suffer endlessly in hell. These are flawed presentations of cosmology, flawed presentations of afterlife. And when you give people these programmings when they're in their corporeal existence, they tend to echo, reverberate, and continue them forward into their non-corporeal existences posthumously. Being played out on Earth right now in terms of the presence and intervention of extraterrestrials and extra-dimensionals on Earth right now. Okay, the two faces in opposition of Christ versus Antichrist present an endless struggle, and this is presented in galactic exopolitics as it's being played out on Earth's surface right now. Various different types of entities, various different types of extraterrestrials whom are here interacting with you embodied Earth beings, some of whom have a negative technology-based agenda. Technology itself is not evil. I'm starting a whole series of presentations based about technology. It's not technology itself. It's the value system and flawed ego constructs of the users of technology, but they use technology to, in many ways, suppress humanity. And those who are like me, pure light beings. Pure light beings. I'm not the only one. You got a whole coherent light family. And guess what? We are all clustered around you, but you also have all these effing 5G emitters, Bluetooth crapola, chem crapola, all these things, artificial LED lights in the sky, Starlink satellites. That's all satanic technology. It is given to humans and developed on the surface of the Earth from exotics or semi-dimensional beings. They come from either another planet or another plane of existence. They gave humans these toys to play with to suppress humans. And there are many power structures, just as there was the Roman Empire in the time of Judea. That's like, I like suppressing humans. I don't like humans being free and alive. I like humans to be my slave. I like to be the emperor, and I like to control everybody else. I'm making my facetious, silly face. And we've got that now. We've got governments and military organizations and intelligence agencies that are like, we like being in charge. We don't like regular people knowing about, let's say, dark projects, things that are going on that are meant to be hidden, that are absolutely powerful empowerment tools that we don't like the regular peasants to know about. So we use these tools in order to suppress human consciousness, and they've been suppressing our ascension. And I have a song, you should already have ascended by now. We should have ascended a year ago by now. It's actually very, very heartrending to me that we have spent an entire year, calendar time of this time place, with so much suffering and so much degradation and so many deaths that could have been avoided if this technology had not been deployed against us, preventing our ascension. What is it, Aurora, that is being done? An energetic shroud has been placed around our planet that is making it difficult for ascension energies, groceries of consciousness, to reach you. I vibrate in and out and try to get as many groceries in as I can, but they've been effing with me a bit over the past year. A bit is a huge exaggeration or minimalization. They've been effing with me a lot, to the point of trying to stop it completely. And it hasn't worked. And I still continue to get out to the grocery store and bring those light codes in for everyone, but they wanted to stop it completely. Yeah, and what they want to do is have everybody here be like, oh, well, you can't ascend, so you might as well go into like some 5D kind of fake virtual reality, San Junipero type of parallel existence. And I'm totally not an advocate for that at all. In fact, everything that I'm here is about fighting against that, even though what I do, and this isn't aside from my notes because I didn't really speak about it enough in my notes, but let me say my role here and my journey here is all about the role of non-duality, resolving energy versus entropy, resolving good versus evil, having a place for the dark fragmented presences to actually go so that they do not have to exist in a suffering of hell anymore. This is why I do not agree with the Christian doctrine of heaven versus hell. I actually want to end suffering. I actually want to have a place for those fragmented satanic consciousnesses to be able to not have to suffer endlessly until the heat death of the universe, to be able to go to entropy immediately, not have to be farming or parasiting, making rotten garbage food out of beautiful, exalted humans in order to sustain themselves and their empire for an incredibly long amount of time. In case you cannot feel it, I am right now speaking as an example and foreign envoy of my collective of coherent light beings who also do not wish to see humans treated like edible garbage, like food to be decomposed and fermented and then eaten by rotten garbage eaters, that you are shining Fabergé eggs that should be treated as treasures that are incredibly valuable, and that your consciousnesses should be uplifted. Because what did I speak about in the continuation from my class from the I Am God circuit? The idea of graduating classes, walking on the level, being a city that flies around and chases the sun, a seed or a spore that untethers from the planet. Graduating classes. If we don't have this class over here, matriculate and get it to this level over here, then they're never going to get off as a spore and go over to here. And we're not going to have this stability of reality that we need. And what really the impulse to come here into this body and create this flying rainbow lasagna was and is and remains motivated by the necessity of making sure that we have a graduating class. That's me and the other coherent light beings who are my family, that I'm still connected to, that are all surrounding and interpenetrating you, but that is just a little bit difficult for you to hear because of the crapola that's all around you. We are here to make sure that there is a graduating class. And that is what is ongoing right now. That is what is personal and planetary ascension. I just have a little bit more to go in my notes. Then I will open the floor to questions. Thank you for being with me on this marathon. This all has to do with planetary ascension and with completing this cycle of this person. Get it? Jesus Christ, Yeshua on the cross has not ascended yet. So that if you're not familiar with the Christian religion, Christ is crucified on the cross, spends a couple of days in a restful mode, like in a crypt, during which time it is said that he goes to hell. Then after that, there is the moment of his ascension, his transformation into a pure light being. And then many traditions allow for the sense of that pure light being still interacting with beings of physicality, corporeality, as a continuation of his presence as a teacher. Ascension, that he is in the process of ascension, which comes after this tortured, agonizing crucifixion. The ascension that we are experiencing as individual occupants of his dream and as a planet, this is the ascension that we are trying to have him experience after this agony of death that he is going through in this torture of being on the cross. All right. When he ascends, all of the inhabitants of his dream are also going to ascend. It is all concurrent. This is an amazing thing to happen. He ascends and we all live within him, And we all have our personal ascension, and the planet structure also has an ascension. That means grass, trees, dolphins, my dog, all of these that are also within the mind of Christ ascend. And this means that consciousness is becoming more aware of itself and is raising the vibration on a mass level. So too will all the galactic star brothers and sisters ascend. This is very big. I tell you this all the time. Your life here on earth matters. Not just a silly person driving your car and drinking coffee or buying toilet paper. Your life that seems small and mundane in your personal healing, transcendence of trauma, and the lives that you touch. And even like you see my little dog over there, her life, all of these organisms, your life matters and your ascension matters. And what happens on this planet matters profoundly, and it radiates upward or outward or telescopes into every direction of ascension of us, of him on the cross, of the larger galactic brain, and a resolution of all of these conflicts from all of these different star beings that have been in duality struggle for eons in almost uncountable number of times and time loops. The Christian religion itself has distorted this process in order to hijack your consciousness and feed false ideas. That's just being said there. And in the end, the true light of Christ is incontrovertible. It means it cannot be stopped, cannot be negotiated away. Ascension is inevitable. You can recognize it no matter what. And I say this all the time, spoiler alert, you find out that it is you. It's the end of my notes, the end of the formal aspects of presentation here. We have a few minutes. Let's say we can go up until 2 p.m. Would like to open the floor to any questions or comments or sharing of anybody that's here live. And I will say thank you to those who are here live. I know that it's been a challenge for some people to find time on their Saturday schedule since I have rescheduled my classes from Tuesday. And thank you to anybody who watches this archive. Thank you for being in the energy field. If you connect non-locally, know that you are still in my heart and you are still connecting to all of this coherent light family presence because it is beyond time. So people have people live in different continents, and also people have different life responsibilities. Know that you continue to connect no matter what, and you receive the telepathic downloads and email blasts. I've got you on my telepathic email list. If you have questions, you can certainly write them either in the physical level on the YouTube comments, or you can, send them to me if you're on Patreon or something like that. And also, you can send them to me telepathically, and I answer a lot of people, and I answer a lot of people in dreams. And I love it when people contact me and they say, you were in my dream and we're talking about this last night, because I do a lot. I can talk to a lot of people in the dream space. I can email blast and talk to many more people than just talking on the phone to one person. So thank you so much to everybody who's been tuning in, who has been listening. I know this is a very deep and deeply felt sharing today. And again, if anybody who's here now wants to share or say anything, or if you want to share after I finish the recording, I respect that too. I want to open the floor to any questions or comments for the part that is shared with others. And it's okay if not, then I will simply again express my profound gratitude and my profound love and my continued encouragement. Oh, Art wants info on the dance class. You got it. Because this is the fun, awesome movement of freedom between dimensions that is all about cultivating the ascension process. This is me, coherent light being, me connected to my Aurora collective, helping to guide and encourage humans on the individual, personal, and planetary ascension goal. And it is fun and it rocks. So how do I do this? What do I usually do? I usually get up in the morning, I write a new song, make some cool new music, and I put down my gym mat here or outside, and I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, and I jump through portals, jumping through time, twisting and morphing time, bending and folding the space of time. And I'm teaching you guys all how to do this. And it is an aspect of self-cultivation. So there are different, it's like an athleticism. It is spiritual athleticism, spiritual, energetic, self-cultivation, personal healing, and then also actual physical, like muscular work and muscular strength, just like being a ballerina. So that is what we are doing together. Class begins on June 21st. I've been talking about the increasing availability or intensity of portals and portaling. What I do with my dance is literally like diving through portals, literally like diving through a waterfall. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. And I'm going to teach you also about ways of staying clean and healthy and pure, even amidst an impure environment. So that part of that is about detoxing your cellular body. Part of that is about different, stretching and movement exercises that I do. Like, how do I keep my body in shape for flying rainbow lasagna? How do I make my body be translucent so that light flows through it and is organized in a perfect diamond structure? So we'll get you from the, haphazard carbon structure, make you rigid potato chips, and get you into your diamond body so that you can, and I'm being facetious and silly, but I'm actually telling you something that is profound and deep. Don't mistake my lightheartedness and my fun aspect, because that's who and what Aurora is, my collective, flying around on these neural pathways in the galaxy. We rock, absolutely rock and roll. And so make music, we're going to dance together. I'm going to teach you the actual dance movements, strengthening exercises for your body. And I do tailor all of this in order to make it accessible for people that might be differently abled. So please don't say, if you don't have a perfect body or you're not a gymnast or whatever like that, you can still participate. This is for anybody that has a body. Even if you were a quadriplegic, there are still aspects of your body that you can move and use and inhabit and be, and it is for you too. So it has to do with inner mind cultivation and cellular cultivation on a genetic level, and also physical dancing. And yeah, so I use a lot with songs that I write, and I'll send those out, make them available on playlists. Rainbow Body is a lovely person, lovely friend and student here. And she was in my original FRL dance class workshop way back in 2020. So it's really wonderful that she's still here. And she says, must do dance class, starts on my birthday. Will you share an invite? Absolutely. I will share one directly with you for your email, because I know your email already. And happy birthday in advance. And what an amazing birthday day to have as your birthday, because June 21st, I don't usually talk in terms of prediction and seeing the future. I can sense it's going to be a very powerful day. Like, you can kind of sense, like, when you feel like the ocean starts to recede and you know that there's going to be a big wave, it's going to be a big wave. All right. And so we're all going to use that big wave of energy to go into awesome directions. And this is about healing, rectification, and really an end to suffering. Everything that we are doing now takes Christ off the cross, ends the suffering, ends the duality, brings us into levels of bliss again, and heals time on a profound level. So this dance of Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, it is a genetic dance, and it is a dance of rectification of the time field, and it is a dance of bodily healing and cellular regeneration. When I talk to you guys about my experience of being a walk-in and having had a genuine death experience, not even a near-death experience, but a genuine death, this body has physically died. And I have come into it and I've regenerated it a lot over 20 years. So please also understand that its effects are cumulative, and that, like, I do things now that I never thought I would be able to do, like inversions and back bends and all sorts of things. I've healed my eyesight and my perception and my balance and all of these things. So when you take the class, I'll talk with you more personally about that. But yeah, when I talk about being differently abled or less abled, you can still dance. So I used to, in a lot of ways, dance mostly sitting down and dancing with my torso and with my hands. Then at a certain point, I would be dancing in my chair, and my chair would just be like not big enough for me. Like, I'd be kind of like jumping out the side of my chair, my arms and legs going out the side of my chair. And then I would started to jump onto the ground and just jump, dance on the ground. So now sometimes I dance on the ground so I can use both my hands and my feet for being able to grasp and manipulate. My brain is not working on my mouth right now. To use both my hands and my feet as prehensile grasping aspects of my anatomy and touch time directly. Even as time is flowing through me, I'm touching time. It's that partnership with, self in non-conflict with individual and context of the time context that you're within. Respectful partnership is basically what I teach about. And I teach a lot about the responsibilities of co-creation in the world, responsibilities of how you put your very appropriate ego desires of what you want to manifest. Like, I want to manifest healing of my body. I want to manifest a better life for me. Guess what? God and the galaxy and the cosmos and everything that's out there wants that for you. And also, I want to manifest healing on a magnificent scale. I want to manifest abundance for everyone that's on this planet. I want to manifest all the beings that we call pooties or poops or garbage eaters, for them to not have to suffer and to have a place to go. Because if you don't, then what you end up having is just another repetitive, boring time loop of more continued suffering. And one thing that I do agree with in the assertions of, the Christian church and doctrines and things like that, the idea of the crucifixion being a magical, miraculous, supernatural act across time and across parallel realities to reduce suffering. That's the whole idea, that it was like one person suffering profoundly in order so that other people could be free, to make a bridge to be able to get through different layers of reality. The idea is that he went through hell in order to be able to make a bridge so good people could get out of hell. This is what we want to do. We want to get everybody to where they're supposed to be, so that there does not have to be suffering anymore. And those errant signals that are not supposed to be in existence get turned down to zero. They go to quietude, they go to peace, they go to restfulness. Characteristics, or maybe even whole entire civilizations, go into a space of restfulness, and they do not suffer, and they're not hungry, and they don't try to feed like vampires, stay alive. That is the resolution of what we do. So this is powerful work. And again, I said in my intro, I recorded a little intro for YouTube. It's not something that I'm going to stream or post on YouTube. It's only for the people that sign up and that are on my class list, because it's a special type of dance that is like a sacred dance. Like, some indigenous people do some dances that are just for their family members or for their own close people in their lives. And that is what I feel like in terms of my FRL dance. If you want to be connected to me, you are invited to be connected to me in this way. It's not something that I want to put up for, like criticism or ogling or just general passersby on YouTube. It is something that is special and sacred. And that is how I share it with people. So it's supernatural and magical and miraculous and healing and regenerative for ourself and for our larger substrate and collective of what we do. And we are actually, I already have a bunch of beautiful people signed up. We have participants in Asia, in Europe, or the area of Greece, and someone in Australia has signed up, and several participants in the United States. And then I'm envisioning like there's going to be this enormous energy field of people flying rainbow lasagnaing all in throughout our whole entire world, that I think that is so amazingly powerful. That's actually a huge goal of mine, like a giant earth-sized flying rainbow lasagna, doing this all together. So yeah, we will be flying in formation and encouraging one another. The individual journey, you're an ice cube in an ocean of consciousness. You're not alone. You're totally surrounded by coherent light family. So that is what this will be. I'm hugely excited to do it. And then once again, I just now you can understand so much more about my journey and the inhibitors and the attacks of the past year, in terms of trying to shut down planetary ascension, hijack and diminish the ascension energies that have been flowing to this planet, me jumping out for groceries, them trying to stop me from jumping out for groceries. I'm jumping out for groceries anyway. My lighthearted examples for things that are really profound, bringing in those light codes nonetheless. And I have really learned how to do this in spite of any attempted diminishments. So that's how I can do this. Like, how can I do this? Like, I've been, they threw the kitchen sink at me. Guess what? I found a way to deal with all the kitchen sink, all the hardware in the kitchen sink. I found a way to deal with it, and we're doing this anyway. That is what is going on. So yeah, I am in profound gratitude to be here, to be still doing my flying rainbow lasagna, for all the people who have supported me and remembered me, and kept the band going, kept the fires alive, kept the coals of the fire alive, and then got it back to a raging bonfire, a big giant, strong energy metabolism of what is going on, and then let's really fly. And fly into a higher dimensional state. So that is my invitation and encouragement to all of you. If you are called to it, please contact me for it. So let me end the recording on that. Because I joke with my little dog. She's right over there. I joke with Cheeky about this all the time. I say, everybody on the internet knows about you, and they know that at a certain point I have to give you a WALK. It's time for the WALK. She's over there, like saying, please pay attention to me, and I really need to get some exercise now. So thank you to everyone. Going to end the recording. It's time for the WALK, and I'm sending you profound love from my heart. Thank you.